what happened? What happened to me on the plane today?
Did you have to deal with plain folk?
Yeah,
folk
a lot of
on the
plain folk
aircraft.
on the plane, especially from North Carolina.
Well, you know about those people.
My last turn was
worst.
from Raleigh, Durham, and they were the most polite people on the entire trip.
This is true.
They did have very thick accents, though, a lot of them. But I find that endearing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would say that I have a Southern accent, and there's probably
they'd
a
be
little
wrong.
one in there. Yeah, but well, you're exposed to real Southern accents.
Yes.
Like thick ones,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying Steph has a Southern accent.
Yeah, that's also not true. Not
No.
a Southern accent.
Chicago.
Closer, yeah. Some strange mix of things.
Oh, wait. Hang on. We already have a problem, I see.
Uh-oh. Is it Nick?
In the chat room.
Me already?
I'm gonna go off channel here so they can't hear me. Who let Laura Davis in the chat room? Oh, I'm still.
What, again?
They can hear me. They can hear me.
We're the other show.
Uh-oh. The
I don't
chat
know what
room's
other show.
revolting.
Yes, they are. I couldn't have said it better, Nick.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
chat
watch
room
out
is
for that.
revolting. Okay, I am recording. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door. Let's see. I think we saw some folks from parts around the world, fur away from here.
Fur
We got
away?
fur away from here.
You've been spending some time in the South.
Are you saying that I have a
dreadful accent.
accent?
Dreadful, yes.
My
Yes.
Not an
Mouse
accent
is-
I recognize.
doing weird stuff.
It
See if
doesn't
this one
like you.
works better.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought, who's doing
Do you
that?
want the
Oh,
elephants in?
that was me. I'm sorry. My bad. I was getting another mouse.
You got
This
some
one's a wired
elephants there?
mouse.
You have a zoo? You look someplace very
well,
tropical and warm. That looks lovely.
Yeah.
Like to
Yeah,
be there.
This is, I'm on layover here in
Like Tahiti.
Tahiti, I think.
Yeah. Looks nice.
Where does it say this is? This is. Oh, I think he's right. I think it is Thailand.
Who said Thailand? Liz?
Or as I like to call it, Thailand.
I'm
You'd
sure
be
you
wrong.
do. We're not going to ask you
Why? Nope.
Tracking speed fast. Well, it's not doing a tracking
Probably
speed
best.
fast. What is? I really should have restarted this machine, but I didn't think I had time
There's always time.
because it's just. No, let's go for it and see if I have any issues, Liz. Then we can just stop and say, okay, we need to.
I spent so long on this damn chair. I flattened today. I've flattened the cushion.
Isn't it a new chair?
Yeah. New chair.
Already?
Cushion's already like only quarter of an inch deep now.
What?
I'd ask for your money back.
So I thought you said you spent a lot of money on that.
I did. It's not money well spent. There's the
Apparently
internet
not.
for you.
The internet? Amazon?
Yeah. Yep. That looks a fancy chair. I'll have that.
Looks like Ko-Fi-Fi.
That, Rich from Sheffield, is a dog from yesterday's dog shoot.
Yesterday.
I shot a few dogs.
Oh,
I wish you
thought
wouldn't
you
shoot
liked
them.
dogs. I know.
Well, you can tell.
so
Look, he was charging me. What am I
I
supposed to
see
do?
that. Yeah. Shoot him.
Yeah, with his
Shoot 'em
fangs
dead.
out and his. Actually, that dog's fantastic. Got a black spot on his tongue. I photographed him when he was a very young dog, and this is his second go back, about 7 years later.
Oh, wow.
Liz tells us that her dog has a black spot on her tongue.
All right.
That's pretty common, actually.
Really?
I don't have a black spot on my
No.
tongue.
In
Neither do I.
dogs, not in people.
Oh, sorry.
I mean,
Well, I was intrigued when we got our German Shorthair Pointer, who was cream and dark brown spotted. The coloration is on the skin as well as the fur. I kind of expected the skin to be all one colour, but no,
Nope.
if you shave it, not that we
Spotty.
did, but yeah, spotty skin. Very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
that.
don't you know everything stuff?
I've had a few dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most of my dogs are not of the pure breed variety, so they come with some interesting features sometimes.
Love it.
Some mix of all the things.
Thank you, Liz, for mentioning to everyone who is with us right now. Or do we have? Oh my gosh! That
Did Nick
just
fall
like
off of his chair? What's going on?
no. There's somebody in Facebook, Kari or Carrie
Yeah,
Nielsen.
Carrie.
So my sister was Karin, Karin, Karin. So it's spelled almost. So I just glanced up and saw
Oh, wow.
my sister's name.
Huh.
Yeah, I went whoa,
Whoa.
back from the dead.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Everybody on Facebook, if you would like, we suggest and recommend that if you can, use the YouTube link because I think you're going to find. So we see the chat room comments from you in Facebook, and we also see the comments from YouTube, and the overwhelming majority of people are on YouTube, and I think you'll have a better experience if you.
It's a bit lonely over there on Facebook.
Pardon me?
People tend to wander in and out of Facebook.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
a
not
bit
real.
lonely in Facebook.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying. If you want to, it's a better experience, I think. Of course, Kari.
MBF is
Kari.
calling me Lilac Nick tonight.
You are very lilac.
Yeah, I'm
It's the
always
colour.
lilac.
I know.
In this
That
current
hotel room
hotel
that you're always
iteration,
in.
yes, I'm always lilac.
It's very soothing.
Yes, I find so.
If you do go to the airlinepilotguy.com/YouTube page, you probably don't want to stay on that page. Just click on the video. And
There's
that
click
should
on the
open
link. It says click here to participate in the chat room. Click on the link.
Okay.
If you just click on the video, it just shows you the video. But if you click on the link, it takes you to the YouTube page where you can actually participate in the chat.
Which link? I'm not sure what you're talking
It says
about.
it. If you go to the page, if you go to the airlinepilotguy.com/YouTube page or airlinepilotguy.com and then click on the link that says watch us on YouTube, there's a link at the top or a hyperlink. There's text. It says click here, hyperlink, to join the YouTube chat room or to participate in the YouTube chat.
Oh, yeah, I put that in there. That was just basically I was doing that for the people that are on the mobile.
Well, that's how I always
okay.
get to it on the mobile. So
Oh, okay, cool. Well, maybe I'll have to change the text on that then. Have everybody click there. Okay. Well, you can also right now I'm looking at the YouTube page, and when you go over there, it also in the bottom left-hand corner says "Watch on YouTube," and if you click that, it does the same thing.
gotcha.
If
Multiple
I gave
ways.
you some updated information about me on the crew page, could you change that at the same time? Is that a difficult thing to do? Because
At the same
I
time
haven't
as
actually
what?
put the fact that I've retired. Still says
Oh.
I'm an airline
Well,
pilot.
I can do that, but would it be okay if I did that after we do the show?
Oh, you're so funny. You're so funny.
Hey,
Now,
look at that.
do it now.
David, yes, I can definitely do that. Just send me the new whatever the stuff you want to have on there. You can send me a new picture too if you want. Whatever, I can
Oh,
change it
what?
all.
Of an old man with a walking stick.
Yes.
Oh, lummy.
So,
I mean, let's make
right
it
now,
accurate.
Liz made a comment about David Lieb in the Facebook chat, and he's heading over to YouTube in a few. And I met up with him last night, and you'll hear a little audio clip that we made at a very nice brew called the Brew House, Trinity Brew House in Providence.
I haven't been to a pub, and they're actually open now. I could have gone to a pub, but oh, thank you, Laura. That's very kind of you.
Sure. Just go ahead and send us whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm offended at.
Is Anthony what was, let's see, Anthony, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Anthony who?
Chiara, I think.
Anthony who?
Chiaravella. Chiaravella. Ciaravella. He sent me an email. He sent us an email to I'm offended at airlinepilotguy.com.
Perfect.
And he says, does this really work? Do you get many of these? Are they all from someone named Karen?
I mean, the majority.
This is Aviator Tony. That's much easier to say, Aviator Tony. So is Aviator Tony with us over here in the chat room?
Haven't seen him, I don't think. There's
Okay. Okay. Well, he just sent this to me 20 minutes ago. What's his excuse?
I don't know. Slacking.
No. Anyway, yes, Aviator Tony, if you're watching this after the fact, we do get a lot of email to I'm offended at airlinepilotguy.com, and I'd say 99% of it is complaining about Nick.
Yes. Yeah, well,
I'm
life's
just
a
kidding.
bitch and then you die.
That's
I think
not
he's
really
very offended by the offended.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very offended.
Life's a bitch, then you die and someone else gets all your toys.
Yes, Liz, we're going to start this baby soon.
I'm ready.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I think you are. Well, you see, you're even growling. That's the kind of... That was not your dog. That was you. Nice try. God. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We got Mohammed there from Iraq, and we have Alan from Tallinn in Estonia, and I'm sure that there are other people from... I'm going to say it over and over and over again, Liz. Just to rub it in. Okay. I think that we are all ready to go. So, why don't we start? Okay. Alrighty. Okay, make it 4:13. And ready, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 469.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 23rd of April. That's Earth Day +1.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Would you ride and he's flying by with the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a vintage torpedo bomber ditches in the water near swimmers at a Florida beach. British Aerospace ATP becomes challenging to control but lands safely. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, the K2R of aviation. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 469 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins in
New York City.
Darn mouse. He's messing up on me. He's also not only in New York City, but he's off apparently on a beach somewhere. I heard some screaming at the beach. Anyway, you are listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, GA. And joining me today from her lakeside studio in South, Doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument rated backstabbing jumper dumper, Dr. Steph.
It helps if my mouse works too. I was gonna give you a hard time for your mouse not working, and mine didn't work. I pressed the button and it didn't do anything.
It's called
Anyway,
karma.
I'm gonna contribute to the copy fund for both of us to get new mice, computer mice.
This is a great mouse. I've never had an issue with it. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
doesn't
it's-
mean that I can't
it feels
just suddenly
neglected.
decide
I've been
to.
gone.
I think mine was more operator error than the error of the mouse. But
No. Can't
glad
be.
to see you.
All right, good to see you. And continuing on from his studio in
Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
one of those, professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus, the A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airlines. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, you two. On a very special day, it's St. George's Day, patron saint of England. And he went around killing all the Welsh dragons. Hooray!
Ooh, well, that's cool. Well, I guess the dragons aren't cool. All right.
Well, you wouldn't know. They're not there anymore. They're all dead.
I feel like you're just
but they're-
antagonizing a certain friend of the show's. But
Yeah, they
that's
weren't
Oh, yeah,
necessarily Welsh dragons, but
Oh.
Wales has a few, or had a few, so thank the Lord for St. George.
Yes. Thank you, Lord, for St. George.
Stand by for news.
Thank you, Paul Harvey. All right, let's start with this first one. In the news notebook, it's called Final Report. Incident. Alitalia A320 at Milan on August 17, 2017. Rejected takeoff after tail strike. Oh, I just remembered I was going to say something really clever. I completely forgot to do that, so I'll have to just move on. Now, Alitalia Airbus A320-200 registration, Echo India Delta Tango Bravo, performing flight 9041 from Milan, Malpensa to Rome, Fiumicino? Is that the way you say that? Come on, somebody help me.
I think you've got to do a bit more Fiumicino.
Fiumicino.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't forget to wave your hands around a bit.
Fiumicino.
That's it. Very good.
With-
Perfect.
Yeah.
reminds me of like
Jenny, I'm sure, is
Luigi
very
from
impressed.
Mario Brothers.
Mario!
I'm
All right,
Mario.
103 passengers and 6 crew was accelerating for takeoff from Malpensa's runway 35 right at 17:16 local time when the crew rejected takeoff and vacated the runway via high-speed turnoff at about 1,000 meters or 3,300 feet-ish down the runway. A replacement Airbus A320-200 registration, you don't care, reached Rome with a delay of about 4 hours. We care about what happened here. On August 24th, Italy's ANSV reported EIDTB rejected takeoff from runway 35 right following a tail strike. The aircraft returned to the apron. Following collection of evidence, the Aviation Nationale, I have no idea what ANSV stands for. It just says ANSV. I'm just going to make something up. The investigative, yeah, I know who they are. It just I was just going to try to do something in Italian, but it didn't work out. Rated the occurrence a serious incident and opened an investigation. The occurrence aircraft remained on the ground in Milan until August 23rd, then positioned to Rome. Okay, I don't care about that either. On April 15th, the ANSV released their final report in Italian only. And guess what? Simon's not very happy about that.
He's very happy about the fact that they released it only in Italian.
Yes, yes. He puts in his normal rant.
Sixpenny
about
worth.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely got a point. But, okay. The report concludes the probable causes of the serious incident were human organizational factors and an inappropriate distribution of passengers caused a serious imbalance of the aircraft at the start of the takeoff run. Here's a fun one. Contributing factors were the sporadicity of the multi-leg flights performed by the operator. In other words, the sporadic nature of the multi-leg flights. Lack of procedures for load control and monitoring of load distribution due to insufficient information exchange between handlers and dispatch office, also due to the inadequacy of the module used to communicate the load for multi-leg flights. Oh, I read between the lines here. It's some kind of a glitch. The lack of visual checks of the passenger distribution on board prior to takeoff compared to the load sheet. And
Do
the
we
lack
have passengers?
Of
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
There we
They're
go.
all
We're good.
They're all
Let's go.
sitting.
Seats up, we good.
They're all sitting
Everyone-
all the way in the back of the airplane.
Yeah.
All of them.
Everyone's on
Everyone's in
captain.
the back.
Is that abnormal? I don't know. Let's go.
It's fine.
Let's see. The lack of perception by the cabin crew of the criticality. Is that right?
That's what it says.
Passenger. Yeah, I know. Sporadicity.
Well, I looked up
Sporadicity and
sporadicity,
criticality.
and
Sporadicity
that's a word.
and criticality.
I think criticality.
Yeah, criticality. No,
Whatever that
it's
is,
a word.
is too.
It's
Yeah.
just I can't pronounce it, and it's an English word. So that's how bad that.
Just go back to
Criticality.
Italian.
Yeah, maybe I'll do better with the Italian. And I'm already see comments from our live audience. And feel free, moderators, to boot out anybody that disrespects me anymore. Just kidding. That means everybody would be gone. But yeah, bye everybody. So a lot of you watch this show to hear me just butcher names of international names and international places and stuff like that. Yeah, well, Glenn, I love you too, man. Love you too. All right. The ANSV reported the aircraft did not receive any structural damage. An abraded surface of about 1.8 meters by 30 centimeters was noted at the bottom of the fuselage, and an abrasion at the drain mast, though. Yeah, there was a picture here in the report that didn't look that bad. But this could have been a lot worse. So, they also said that weather did not play a role. The data downloaded from the black boxes did not show any anomaly or mistake by the operating flight crew, nor did they provide any evidence of malfunction of the aircraft. Okay, so they're off the hook. The aircraft had operated a multi-leg daily rotation from Rome, Fiumicino to Milan, Malpensa to Hamburg, Germany to Milan to Rome. Okay, sounds like there's some repeats there. The ANSV analyzed 171 passengers had departed Hamburg, 68 of which were destined for Milan, and 103 for Rome. The handler in Hamburg assigned seat rows 1 through 12 to the passengers of Malpensa, and seat rows 13 and aft to the passengers to Rome. In addition, 3 ULDs, or as I like to call them, UDLs, of luggage destined for Milan were put into the forward cargo hold. The distribution was intended to facilitate unloading and refitting at Malpensa. However, the handler in Hamburg was not using the software system used by the operator, requiring to send the loading data in email using the A320 LDS. Oh, it's a Salt Lake City A320 paper form to
Very
dispatch
Mormon.
load control, a Mormon system. No, a paper form. Of course, it wouldn't be a. Never mind.
Sorry. If you're
The,
not from Salt Lake City, we apologize for your lack of understanding of that joke. And if you are, we apologize for offending everyone.
And if you're LDS, we do
Sorry.
really apologize.
Yeah.
Wow. We're only on the first news item, and we've already offended a lot of people, apparently.
Well,
But if
you
you-
two have, that's for sure.
Potentially.
Nick has said
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Wisely.
I'm staying
Well-
stum.
We all know you, Nick, and we know that there's plenty of
Yeah,
potential for
Just
you later.
Only a
wait
matter
for a
of
few
time.
minutes and Nick will say something.
and a few more beers. Okay. The software module was not designed to accept the seat conditions on multi-leg flights distinct for 2 or more destinations. The load controller thus did not have the information to finalize the load sheet and assumed a reasonable but unverified seat distribution. This did not cause any problem on the sector from Hamburg. However, the controller did not anticipate that the
Milan.
Malpensa handler would consider... Huh?
No, go ahead.
Would consider the seat distribution as valid. The load sheet thus assumed, you know what happens when you do that, 33 passengers in the forward section of the aircraft, 39 in the middle, and 31 in the aft. That seems like a pretty reasonable, even distribution, right? That's what they assumed. However, the actual distribution was 4 passengers in the forward, 47 passengers in the middle, and 52 in the aft section of the cabin.
Yeah, all in the
addition-
toilet.
Yeah. Probably a few of them ended up there on the takeoff flight. In addition, the forward cargo hold became emptied. So we had cargo up there, but
No
in
more cargo.
Malpensa, they took it all off. So you get the picture, right? It's
Just
a very,
four
very
people sitting up
tail-heavy-
front and
Yeah, 4 people.
everything else in the back of the
They're
aircraft.
going, woo! That's fun. In this weight distribution, when the crew applied thrust for takeoff, the aircraft became sufficiently unbalanced so that the tail contacted the runway surface.
It
crew
did a
immediately
wheelie.
Yeah, they did a wheelie. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they didn't have those little wheels in the back, to keep it from going too far back.
What the training wheels? No,
Yeah.
they took those off when they got their license.
Well, I think that they have stuff. You know, those cars that routinely are made to do those wheelies and stuff. They put these, or maybe they're dragsters or something.
I'm
and
not
they put these
familiar
little
with
bars
those, but
down
sure.
with little wheel.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
I
yeah.
am particularly
Okay,
the
Nick
motorcycles.
knows.
I don't know what they're called, but yeah.
Training
Anyway.
wheels.
Called casters.
No, they're not training wheels.
Called casters.
Thank you, Liz.
Bumper wheels. I don't.
Okay.
Okay, let's just move on.
I mean, it would have been helpful in this situation for sure. I've just
Yeah.
never seen an aircraft with
But they're-
that installed.
No, no. See, I was just trying to be funny. Aircraft don't
I
have
know.
these.
I was being
Oh.
funny too.
Oh, we're just
Jeez.
being so funny that we're canceling each's.
Concorde did. Concorde
Did
had
it?
a little wheel on the back.
Oh, that's right. And B-52. John says don't expect an upgrade on Alitalia.
No, they
No,
didn't move anyone
everyone's
forward.
down the back.
In fact, you're getting
B-52s
just
have those
keep
little
going to the
wheels on the wingtip.
steerage. They do.
Anyway, well, we're getting really. Oh, and Aleutian 62s.
Oh,
have
now we're
that
going to
tail
get a
wheel
list of
on a stick.
airplanes with wheels at the back.
We'll just have
Piper
links
Cub
to,
has a wheel on the back.
It's supposed to
Wikipedia.
though.
A Spitfire.
everybody can-
Tail wheel.
I'm just really sorry that I
Aircraft.
mentioned it. It was definitely, clearly a mistake by me to mention that. Okay. Yeah. Long way to go for a joke that just fell flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm used to that actually. That's the kind of joke teller I am. I usually forget the punchline. Yeah. Except dad jokes I can remember because they're really dumb. Okay. Let's go back to the news, shall we? Mm-hmm. So the crew applied thrust for takeoff, and then, of course, the thing did a wheelie. And it said that the ANSV had concluded in a similar way about a similar occurrence in 2009. See accident BH Air A320 at Verona. I guess this only happens in Italy.
Well, they don't like people to sit at the front of the aircraft there. I don't know. Must be some sort
Apparently.
of Italian.
Oh, wait a
preference.
minute. I was wrong. One happened in Stuttgart in 2005. Izzy? How? Oh, wheelie bars. Wheelie bars. Thank you, Richard.
Wheelie?
Yep, on a dragster.
Is that really true?
Not Willie. Wheelie. Wheelie. Oh. Yeah. Liz said, please refrain from talking about your Willie, Nick. Okay. You know, I don't really know exactly what else to say about this other than they screwed up. Somebody should have noticed, as Nick mentioned at the very beginning of this, that like the cabin crew or somebody didn't say, that's kind of weird. Like most everybody's sitting in the back of the airplane, or the mid to the back of the airplane, and didn't seem to be concerned about that. They probably
Seems
should
like a
have been.
strange distribution of passengers.
I have a question.
Yes.
What the report doesn't mention is whether the COG was outside the flight envelope. Because had they actually managed to get the damn thing airborne, would it have been controllable?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Because that
Yeah,
would be a considerably
That would be much
more
worse.
serious, exactly.
Yeah.
Incident.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't mention
Yeah.
it.
I would like to have known at least how close it was to the RCOG limit.
Yeah.
Well,
Or maybe-
pretty close. I mean, you apply a little bit of takeoff power and it falls back on the tail. That's probably pretty close to the FCG limit.
I would say so.
Yeah.
And I'll bet the actual final report that we don't have
Mentions
I'm
it.
sorry.
It's in Italian
It's
only.
in Italian. So I bet.
That's why we don't have it.
No. Liz, you don't need to post the Italian only report for us. It's not going to help. Except it might be entertaining for me to read it.
Excuse me. I'm just choking here.
Yeah, Steph will have Steph read it after 2 or 3 beers.
No. I was gonna let Jeff read it after a few beers.
Okay. Anything else that we should say about this crew?
No,
it,
basically-
it must have been quite alarming, though, because, I mean, they only got in total to about 1,000 metres, 3,000 feet. So it must have happened quite quickly.
They only got to
must have-
43 knots or something. Like,
Yeah,
not
must
very
have
fast.
wondered what the
They pushed the
hell
power
is
up and it
going
went-
on. Because
Something's not
Set.
right.
they must have gone from, like, I don't know what the height of their cockpit is, 30 feet in the air, 20 feet in the air, to about 3 times that when they sat it on its backside. They must have been like being on a roller coaster.
Bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Whee.
So,
Depends on the Italian definition of controllable from iHall Boxes. Okay. Oh, and then thank you, John. John's helping me out. I do appreciate that, John. Oh, there we go. The ANSV is the Agenzia Nacional per la Sicurezza del Volo.
Nailed it.
I'll remember that next time I go to an Italian restaurant.
They're going to go,
I'll have the
Agenzia
ANSV,
Nacional-
please.
Agencia? I don't know. Is it Agencia Nacional per la
Del Volo,
Sicurezza
doesn't
del
that
Volo.
mean with chicken?
It's the National Agency for flight security, for flight safety.
I did it so much better than Steph.
Yeah, you
Just have
did.
to say.
You did.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to this one. With linguini. God, I can't even say linguini. Okay. 01B news. Incident. Cessna 150L. November 19289, 14 April 2021. What's this all about? Wait, that
This has to do with you,
November-
Jeff.
Well, I know, though November 19289 sounds a little familiar to me. Come on, work with me, Steph. Work with me. I
Well,
was
what
doing
were
a
you
little
doing
bit of
on April
dramatic.
14th?
Thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
I was flying my little airplane from Atlanta to Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
And on guard, because we monitor 121.5 VHF guard, and I heard someone say, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I'm thinking,
Whoa.
huh? Between the meowing, yeah, don't get me started with the meowing and the guard and all those stupid things you hear on guard. Anyway, I heard Mayday, Mayday, and then that like cleaned up all the stupid stuff going on in guard, and people were really keen to help out this person, and it was kind of breaking up a little bit. It was hard to hear exactly what he was saying, but I have to say, I don't know if this gentleman is listening to the show. I doubt it, but if he is, I want to say that he sounded very professional on the radio, and he was basically saying he was declaring a mayday because he lost power in the only engine that this airplane has, and was going to attempt landing in a field to the southwest of Monroe Executive Airport, somewhere near Charlotte. because
Yes,
I think
sorry,
he was
I
kinda-
I had to take a phone call there real quick, but
yeah.
Monroe Executive is part of the Charlotte metropolitan area. It's one of the local airports here. Yeah.
and it was like late morning,
You said it was like 10 a.m. or so, I think.
something like that.
Because I was actually flying that day as well, and I was like, oh, I didn't hear about that at all because I didn't start flying until later in the afternoon, probably about 1
Okay.
o'clock, 1:30.
Because I immediately thought of you, Steph,
Mm-hmm.
like, because I wasn't sure exactly when you might be flying that day, and I wasn't sure exactly where Monroe Executive was. And honestly, I couldn't remember
Yeah,
exactly
Monroe is
where the drop zone
Monroe is southeast of
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah, I looked that up and saw that it was
They're
kind
on
of
the
a what you
same
go-
CTAF frequency as where the drop zone is, so we hear all of their traffic.
Okay. So it's non-towered?
Non-towered, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he and then not long, and everybody was very concerned about this, trying to help out and relay messages for the Cessna forced landing, and then I heard a voice saying that he was okay, that they landed in the field, and there was 2 of them in the. That's pretty much all it holds.
That's all that it holds is 2
Yeah.
people in a 150.
And but sometimes you're just by yourself there, so there were
Yeah,
2
true.
2 people, and they landed safely, and I'm not sure what kind of damage at all.
It
Let's see,
says
airplane sustained-
unspecified damage to the aircraft.
Okay.
Sustained unreported damage. I don't know what that means. Either there was no
Okay.
damage or it just wasn't reported. So.
I
It's
don't
a it's a good time of year to land in fields because a lot of them are being a lot of like the fall crops are being cut down right now and plowed over. So a lot of the fields in the area are quite flat without a lot of high crops or things to snare tires or get you tangled up in.
That's a good thing for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just happened to mention it to the APG crew and to Steph and asked if she had heard anything about that in the news or anything. But,
Yeah, I hadn't even heard about it on the news, so I guess
yeah,
it was very much a
probably not
non-event.
newsworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's
Which
good.
is a
We
good
don't want
thing.
it. Yeah, we don't want it to be making the news because that means that something bad probably happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the only thing. But I just wanted to say I was very impressed with maybe this was a flight instructor who had a lot of experience.
Arrowwood Aviation is a flight school.
Okay.
That's the owner operator of the aircraft out of Monroe.
Okay. So, yeah, whatever. They did a great job, I think.
Good.
So,
Very good.
all right, moving on to this, also from the Aviation Safety, aviationsafety.net, Aviation Safety Network. This is an accident that occurred in 2020, February of 2020, and it was involved a Swearingen Metroliner SA227-DC, or a Metro 23, I guess it's called, operated by Perimeter. Wow. There, let me take a little swig of this.
Perimeter.
Perimeter. I don't usually have trouble with that word. Perimeter Aviation, as flight Bearskin Airlines 344, was conducting a VFR flight from Dryden Regional, Charlie Yankee Hotel Delta, Ontario, to Sioux Lookout, Charlie Yankee X-Ray Lima, Ontario, with 2 crew members and 6 passengers on board. As the aircraft started the takeoff roll on runway 12, the aircraft directional control was lost and the aircraft exited the right side of the runway. The propellers subsequently contacted a snow bank and broke apart. Parts of the broken propellers penetrated the fuselage, injuring 1 passenger. The aircraft was substantially damaged. Let's see. A similar accident occurred to a Skylink charter Metro 3 on 29 September 2002. The aircraft, November 343 Alpha Echo, veered off the runway on takeoff from Hawthorne Airport, California, which is really close to LAX, because one of the propellers was not out of the start lock. Okay, immediately after I was reading that, I'm thinking, I have no idea. I've never flown a turboprop airplane. I don't know what a start lock is. I
Yeah, so
figured
it keeps
that
the.
Steph
I
probably
do.
would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I looked it up, so I kind of know too. But go ahead, tell us
carry
about
no,
that
carry
start
on.
lock.
Yeah,
No?
so the start lock. So certain it depends on the engine type, but if you need to, if it's the type of engine where you need to start the propellers in a specific configuration, usually unfeathered. So a lot of single drive turboprops are like that because you don't want to spin everything up all together and create forward propulsion with propellers that are not flat, basically. So the way they do that is there's something called a start lock. So you get it into the start lock on shutdown by bringing the power all the way into reverse, and then you bring it the power lever back to there's a gate for ground idle. Basically, you start it there, and then once it's running, then you're going to bring it all the way into reverse again for just a moment, and that releases the start locks, and then you bring it back to the ground idle gate.
Would you say then that the propeller start locks consist of 2 spring-loaded pins that engage the propeller piston?
I would.
And consequently lock the blades in a flat pitch position?
Correct. Yep. So you want it in a flat pitch so that you're not going to be moving forward as the aircraft starts.
And it's also probably easier on the
Yeah,
propellers of it too,
and
right?
everything that's spinning.
And the
So,
engine. Yeah. The start
Start
lock
lock is the thing that
spinning
delays the
blades,
show every
sure.
week. Yes, he's correct on that.
Yeah, well, in this context, it has something to do with propellers. So
Interesting though, is so levers not being pulled over the flight idle gate to release the. Huh. Okay, continue reading. I hadn't read through this yet, so curious to
Yeah,
see what
so
actually
while the
happened
crew
here.
was carrying out the before taxi checklist, the start locks task was initiated. However, it was interrupted and not completed. After the captain told the first officer to stand by, the crew's, he sounded just like that, I think. The crew's focus shifted to other tasks, It's likely that this slip of attention resulted in the power levers, or levers if you prefer, not being pulled over the flight idle gate to release the start locks. The before taxi checklist did not contain a task to ensure that the start locks were removed, and as a result, the crew began taxiing unaware that the propellers were still on the locks.
Interesting. So the single engine aircraft that I fly that has start locks, you wouldn't go anywhere if you didn't take it off the start
Because
locks.
you only have one engine.
You only have one engine. You would notice right away.
Yeah, it would be obvious.
And yeah, it's very obvious if you don't take it off the start locks.
Okay.
I'm just curious at this point. Is it an unusual thing to do in the middle of a checklist?
No, usually we do it as soon as the aircraft is started. You can take it off the start locks and still not go anywhere as long as you're holding brakes. Just bring it back to ground idle.
I don't think they were doing it in the midst of a checklist. I think that they're just saying that the before taxi checklist doesn't contain an item to ensure that the start locks are still, just kind of as a follow-up.
It's on the checklist,
on the start checklist, probably.
It's on the after start checklist, yeah.
Okay.
Before taxi checklist.
Yeah.
Well, it just says that while the crew were carrying out the before taxi checklist, the start lock task was
It should
initiated.
it should be in the before taxi checklist.
Oh, you're right. It does say that. Sorry.
So, and they obviously got one out, but the other one got forgotten.
Yeah. Something distracted them and
Well,
interrupted
doing the
flow.
bloody checklist, I suspect. What a stupid time to do an action like that.
Huh?
Or forgive me for being critical.
What I'm confused as why that would be a silly time to do the start locks
Because
task.
you're doing a checklist. Why would you do what appears to be a fairly critical task, like making sure the propellers are in the right mode?
But it has to be on the
to be able
checklist
to go
somewhere.
Flying. Was
It's part
carrying
of
out
items.
the before taxi checklist.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a challenge and response checklist here, or are we talking about after start actions? Is there a terminology problem? Because if you say, let's have the before taxi checklist, that for me is a challenge and response checklist. Am I missing something?
Depends on the
It depends on
SOPs,
the-
I suppose. So if
'Cause
they're, if this is this is an airline, so I suppose it would be challenge and response in that case.
Well, not necessarily. We have both challenge and response type checklist items for various parts of the operation. And then we have some that are checklists as well, but they're silent. There's no challenge response. Or there might be one or two items on there that are challenge and response, but not all of it.
Okay, I was just trying to work out, since it wasn't part of the before taxi checklist,
It
why
is part of
he
the.
was-
It is this action is part of the before taxi checklist to take to.
It says the before taxi checklist did not contain a task to ensure that the start locks were removed. I'm just trying to
Okay.
think this
I don't know.
logically
I think-
as to
okay,
why
I see what
they
you're
forgot this.
So in ours, it's in the before taxi checklist because you're not going to be able to move anywhere if you don't take the props out of the start lock.
Yeah.
So I think it was there. I think later on where it says did not contain a task, I think there's no second task to say go back and double check that you did it.
To ensure that they're...
So there's just the one task that says remove start locks
Yeah, it's not very clear.
or take the propeller off start lock.
A little ambiguous, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what their checklists look like. They didn't put a...
I don't have a copy of the checklist,
Reference
so I don't
to
know.
it.
Ours does not have a second thing to go back and say, hey, did you remember to do this? It's just there in the checklist.
But it really doesn't matter because they found out.
Well, they did, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That's
and
why we're
they
talking
nearly killed the
When they had-
passenger doing it.
God, jeez.
So let me continue. Item 4, after the engine was started or while the occurrence aircraft commenced taxiing for departure, it's likely that slight or rapid transient movements of the engine power levers which were needed to taxi the aircraft resulted in the release of the left propeller start locks while the right propeller start locks remained engaged. As the power was advanced through 20%, the positive torque call required by their standard operating procedure was not made, and the engine torque differential was not noticed by the crew. As a result, power lever advancement continued, although the right engine torque/thrust remained near zero. Yeah, because the start locks are still in there. And the pitch of
You're not going to
the,
produce any
prop-
torque with the blades flat.
Yeah. And the engaged start locks on the right propeller prevented forward thrust, which resulted in a significant thrust differential. This differential thrust during the takeoff roll resulted in a loss of directional control of the aircraft and ultimately a lateral runway excursion. Following the excursion, the propellers, which were operating at a high RPM, shattered and splintered when they struck a frozen snowbank. High energy release of the nickel cobalt erosion strips and splintered wood core debris, or debris if you prefer, from the propeller blades penetrated the reinforcement panel, fuselage skin, and cabin wall, and resulted in serious injuries to a passenger sitting next to the penetrated cabin wall. Not good. Yeah, that. I'm wondering if, due to this, if they, kind of looked at this and said, we probably need to have something built into our checklist to ensure that these start locks are definitely not engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a little bit different. I've not flown multi-engine turboprop aircraft that has start locks. So in the PT6, that doesn't occur because it's not a direct drive. You've got two parts of the engine spinning different directions, so it doesn't matter. You're not producing torque when you start the engine. Yeah, so these are the same engines that we have, the Garrett TPE 331. Probably different, probably larger size ones than what we have, but yeah.
Well, it was all Greek to me because, I didn't even know what they were talking about when they were talking about start locks. But something should have happened. Something distracted them, and they didn't notice that this event didn't occur on one side and just kind of accidentally occurred, I guess, on the other side. And then we had a differential power for the takeoff roll, and then we had a excursion and injured passenger. I think we need to get all the pilots out. This is I haul boxes, and I'm hoping that he's being very, very sarcastic and facetious.
I think getting everyone out of the aircraft will include him.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I think we need to get all the pilots out of the aircraft, automate everything, and live happily ever after. Yes, what a wonderful world it would be.
As Louis Armstrong said.
Yes, exactly. What I was going for there. All right, let's. Anything else that we should take from this, Miss Stephanie?
No, I mean, yeah, that's just interesting. Something I hadn't honestly thought too much about or considered, but that makes sense. If you've got two engines, they both have to be off the start locks. Otherwise, you're going to get thrust out of one and not the other, and that's not going to be good when you go to take off.
In my mind, I was kind of equating, like on jet engines that are some airplanes, the older ones, have like a lever, a mechanical lever to push up, and then once the engine has started, then you kind of push it forward and it goes into a detent to prevent that lever from going back down. And if it goes back down, then it shuts off the fuel to the engine. So it's the 727 is an example of an airplane that I flew that had these levers that moved up and down and kind of went into a detent position. And I've seen on at least one occasion rolling down the runway and watching one of these little things start creeping downward, and then just quickly putting my hand up there and making sure it was back in the detent.
Don't let it slide back. Yeah.
It'll definitely shut the engine down.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dale brings up the takeaway point here that if you're interrupted during a checklist, restart the checklist.
Yeah, that's true, and it's hard to do sometimes, especially if it's a long checklist.
Oh yeah.
Oh shoot, we have to.
Well, I just sent you guys a copy of just a snippet of the Caravan checklist for this particular engine, so Nick can take a look at it and see what I was talking about there, like where it is on our checklist. It's just on the before taxi.
You see that, Nick?
That's just for your own personal
and
edification.
The APG crew. No, it's not up there in the ceiling.
Text message. Text message.
I see
Nurse.
now. I see, said the blind man.
Oh
my gosh.
So, but that's is that a challenge or response, or is that
for us? Well, it's
an action
single.
Checklist.
So it's just action because it's generally just single pilot.
Gotcha. All right. Cool.
Anyway,
there's so much day glow highlighter being used on that, you might as well just fill the whole page in.
There's a reason for that.
That reminds me of when I used to study for stuff, and I'd use a highlighter, and I ended up doing like everything. What am I doing?
I did not create this particular checklist, and I would have done it a little bit differently, to be fair. But in terms of what's highlighted,
Would you use different colors?
yeah, pink, and, I don't know.
Like the blue and the pink. Okay. Let's move on. I think we're just digging ourselves a huge hole.
Not as big as the one that prop made.
Yeah, true. Okay. Historic aircraft ditches off Cocoa Beach. I'm sure many of you that listen to our show have already seen all this in social media and YouTube and all that kind of jazz. Let's see. This was sent in by several, I think, but this one is from Brian Mozizik. It's sad to see this plane go down, but the pilot was safe, and the best part of the whole video is about 22 seconds in, a surfer catches a wave, really unconcerned with the plane that just went over his head. Dude, surfing.
He was really chill, really relaxed.
Yeah. I don't care. There's a big airplane about to hit me. Let's see. U.S. Naval Institute on Twitter. It's painful to see a vintage TBM Avenger go down, but the pilot did well to safely ditch the plane after experiencing a mechanical issue while performing at the Cocoa Beach Air Show yesterday. We'll get to that, Liz. The Avenger had only been flying for a year after undergoing an 18-year restoration.
Oh,
I think
my
there were a lot of
Lord.
people that were crying when they watched this video.
No.
I almost want to cry. 18 years. Oh my
18
gosh.
years. That's a long time to put into an aircraft, and then
Yeah. All right. Time to start over. Another 18 years. We're going to have it ready in the museum. Anyway, so I am going to play, or I'm going to attempt to play, a video of this TBM Avenger ditching in the Atlantic, just really close to the shoreline, which may or may not be a factor in this. So let me find it here, and forced water landing open. Okay. Apparently, there were a lot of sightings of some deity. A lot of people saying, "Oh my God."
Oh God. Oh my God.
I wonder what she says when she's really excited.
Maybe she's referring to the pilot.
I can't believe that happened right in front of us.
I like that everyone just stands around and keeps taking pictures. Like, don't worry about the guy flying the thing or anything.
Yeah, not a lot of effort to go out there and try to see if this guy's okay. A couple of little stills here, still in this video, which is confusing. Stills in a video. Oh, that was it. That was the last frame. By the way, when I was reading all about this, let me just read a little bit of this article here from, where is this from? The Aviationist. Valiant Air Command pilot makes perfect emergency water landing with TBM Avenger in front of beach. Spectators captured dramatic video of the Valiant Air Command's new Grumman TBM Avenger. Oh, wait a minute. Ooh, I see a mistake. I just noticed it. I looked it up because I was trying to figure out what TBM stood for. I knew that T was torpedo, B was for bomber, but then I noticed there were some that were called TBFs and TBMs, and I thought, well, maybe it's like torpedo bomber military, torpedo bomber. So I did my research, found out that M stands for General Motors, was the company that happened to make this particular Avenger. If it were a TBF, it would have been Grumman. So whoever wrote this article, you might want to go back and do some more research. Yeah. But honestly, that's the first that I realized that he referred to this as a Grumman. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess. They made an emergency water landing on Saturday, April 17, which was just last Saturday, at the Cocoa Beach air show in Florida. There were no injuries reported in the impressive display of airmanship by the TBM Avenger pilot. And then it talks a little bit about what the TBM TBF Avenger is. And anyway, so watching this crew, it looks like he came in and then kind of ballooned up a little bit and then continued back down. I'm wondering if he was thinking that this area of the water was clear and then all of a sudden realized as he got closer that they're like swimmers.
Oh,
in his
yeah,
path.
that dude just caught a wave. I'll just go over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no. What do you?
Although
The thing that I thought about here, Steph, is that okay? I'm trying to get into the head of this guy that's flying this thing and ditching it. Why he was so close to the shoreline, and maybe he's thinking, well, gosh darn it, we spent
Maybe he
18
doesn't
years
swim well.
restoring this thing, and we want to have the best chance possible of recovering this thing with little to no damage. And so if I can get it as close as possible, maybe it won't go completely underwater.
So that's a possibility. My other thought is maybe he's not a swimmer. Maybe he did not have, because he was at an air show, maybe he didn't have any type of flotation device also. So the closer to shore, the better his chance
Hadn't
of.
thought of that. Yeah.
I don't know. That was just my first thought. But
I was thinking, like, there are a lot of people.
He's very close to people, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if the ballooning was just, kind of flaring with carrying a little bit extra airspeed still.
Too much. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what
I guess
it was
we'd
like
have to talk to him to find out for sure what he was thinking when that happened. But I don't know. Just a thought that I had, that maybe it would have been better. Maybe not, but maybe it would have been better to go out a little bit further where, you didn't have any chance at all of hitting somebody. But I don't know. I mean,
another 100 yards, offshore probably would have been. But yeah, I mean, you're trying to put it down in an area too where, like you said, a lot of work went into restoring that aircraft. So you want to do as little damage as possible to it. So you want to be in an area where it looks relatively calm, and along the axis of the waves.
That's true. Yeah, you don't want to catch a wave and sit on top of the world.
You don't want to go perpendicular to them. That's not a good thing. Parallel to the waves.
Joe St. Clair, this is a possibility. Maybe he's just a pilot that spent his last $1,000 on a good headset.
Well, he took the headset with him, didn't he?
He was holding it and trying to keep it from getting wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought it was intriguing that this was an aircraft painted up in one of the aircraft that disappeared in the so-called Bermuda Triangle.
I think that there was a PT on this. Was it? Not?
Yes. Well, I did a PT about all the rubbish people talk about things like the Bermuda Triangle.
But how do you feel about it, really, though? Honestly.
Yeah. Me and conspiracy theorists wouldn't get on very well. So,
yeah. Well, once they get to know you, you guys would get along swimmingly. I'm sure.
I'm sure. No.
As reasonable adults, you can have differences of opinion. It's fine.
No, you can't.
Okay. Well, yeah. So sad that it turns out, and there's a lot of videos out there online, and we'll have some links to some of those in the show notes where you can see the recovery attempt of the airplane. Apparently, according to, I think it was Juan Brown on the Bronco Ligrio channel, that the original plan was to try to put it on floats and move it over to the intercoastal waterway, and then get a crane to lift it up and onto dry land. But the local, what do you call that? The local government said, no, you need to get it out of the water right now and right from where it is. Good luck. And so they
how considerate of the local government.
Yeah, I guess they were concerned that something would happen,
like
get out of control.
Fluids
and do a Suez Canal thing.
Yeah, who knows?
Block up the.
What are they helicopter it out or something?
No, they just got a big crane and lifted it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Anyway, so that's all we have to say about that, I think. Right? Okay.
Quite dramatic.
It was made for some good video, and we thank him for that. I guess he just had engine trouble. lost power. And there's really not much he could do other than getting it, ditching it, I guess. Okay. Next one here, report West Atlantic ATP at Jersey on August 18th, 2020, difficulties with roll control. And again, this is from Simon's Aviation Herald website. A West Atlantic British Aerospace ATP registration Sierra Echo Mike Alpha Oscar performing flight PT424 from Jersey to Guernsey in the UK. What's Jersey CI? What's CI stand for?
No idea.
Channel Islands.
Oh, Channel Islands, probably.
Okay. With two crew, was en route at 2,000 feet MSL with the autopilot engaged at 200 knots indicated airspeed. When air traffic control instructed a right turn onto a heading at 340. When a jolt occurred following a left roll, which was corrected by the autopilot. After a second jolt, the autopilot disconnected. The first officer, pilot flying, took manual control of the flight but found it difficult because the aircraft was pushing left. I guess trying to roll to the left. I'm assuming that means. According to the CVR, she commented, quote, "I'm just giving everything I have just to hold it steady." However, she did not appear strained. The captain requested delay vectors to sort a minor issue. The captain took temporary control, but experienced the same issue, needing a lot of right input through the aircraft, though the aircraft remained fully controllable. Okay, so there's a lot of input in the yoke to keep the thing level, I guess, and control it. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry. Really? Liz is telling me that there's a little bit of freezing going on in my video.
Oh,
Not that
really?
I've
I haven't
seen.
noticed.
Okay, must just be you, Liz. Okay. Let's see. The first officer took control again. The captain verified that all other indications were normal and the roll trim was neutral, then requested only left turns on the ILS runway 27 at Guernsey, reporting a slight control problem, nothing major. That's very smart, by the way. I'm not even sure I'd think of that. Just give me
If
left
the aircraft
turns.
only wants to turn left, then
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just saying I probably wouldn't think of that. Yeah, use it to your advantage. The captain operated the aileron trim. The first officer commented she thought that it was feeling better. The captain performed an approach brief and mentioned the ramifications of abnormal control surface forces. Let me try this again. The captain performed an approach brief and mentioned the ramifications of abnormal control forces during a go-around. Again, very good thinking. The aircraft descended out of cloud at 1,500 feet MSL, became fully established on the localizer when the flight directors failed, and the first officer continued flying the ILS using raw data, and the aircraft landed safely on runway 27 after a total flight time of 14 minutes. Not a long flight. After engine shutdown, the first officer commented that the flight controls felt normal. And so the United Kingdom's AAIB, Air Accidents Investigation Branch, released their bulletin concluding, and that was just recently on the 19th of April this year. As the aircraft leveled off at 2,000 feet and 200 knots, there were two uncommanded left rolls, and the autopilot automatically disengaged, as it's supposed to. The crew found it harder to turn the control wheels to the right, but they maintained control of the aircraft. Although the flight director failed during the approach, they made an uneventful landing in Guernsey. Okay, this is kind of recapping what I just said. Extensive testing on the aircraft did not identify the cause, but the operator replaced several components as a precautionary measure. Subsequent component testing found no anomalies that could be definitively associated with the incident, although it did identify issues relating to equipment maintenance and testing. Let's see, let's continue down here. There was no evidence of anything untoward when the aircraft was checked externally with electrical power switched off. The control wheels were free to operate through their entire range of movement without any restrictions. The ailerons, balance tabs, and aileron trim were all observed to operate normally. The rear avionics compartment, where the number 2 autopilot is located, was checked and found to be dry. All the equipment in the compartment was found to be secure. The aileron control system mechanical runs were visually checked and operated throughout the range of movement. No anomalies were identified, and the control cable tensions were confirmed to be correct. The autopilot SCS and AHARs were functionally tested, and no faults were apparent, although the right aileron synchro required a small adjustment to bring it into the limits defined in the aircraft maintenance manual. basically, bottom line here, and it goes through and talks in much more detail about all the different bits and parts that they replaced to try to troubleshoot this whole problem. And I guess there was some history on this number 2 autopilot, and they removed it. And in the meantime, the aircraft had been returned to service and flown without further incident. So, let's see. The AAIB described that the laboratory examination of the component found no anomalies except for autopilot computer number 2. The unit had been repaired in 2001 after a problem with overshooting selected headings. So it sounds like it has some issues with roll. It then had been stored for 3 years, then fitted to another aircraft, and in September 2010 fitted to the incident aircraft, I believe. The AAIB wrote it was fitted to Sierra Echo Mike Alpha Oscar in September 2010, and the operator's maintenance history showed that it had been transposed with the number 1 computer several times whilst troubleshooting various autopilot anomalies. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what they're saying there. It had been transposed.
Were they meaning they
They
switched it
swapped
out with
them
the number
over.
1? They swapped them?
Just swapped them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
I
the
think so.
Okay. Gotcha. The AAIB annotated that the overhaul agency tested the autopilot computer at normal ambient room temperatures to certify the unit airworthy if the tests were passed. And I guess they passed all the tests, did not find any malfunctions. The AIB subsequently wrote, with respect to the laboratory examination, that the printed circuit boards, the PCBs, were removed and visual examination found localized corrosion, white translucent staining, and an accumulation of detritus on 3 of them. The affected PCBs were associated with the SCS logic and autopilot servo operation. The manufacturer responsible for the autopilot design reviewed photographs of the printed circuit boards and stated that in their opinion the corrosion was probably caused by trapped flux, possibly left after a previous repair. They noted an area adjacent to one corrosion site where there was a visible difference in the conformal coating. The repair records from 2001 were no longer available, so the detail of the work carried out is unknown. So, yeah, I guess the interesting thing to me about this is usually when the autopilot disengages, when it's doing some weird stuff, you have full and, normal feeling controls and everything else. But in this case, it sounds like some component of the autopilot, the servo for the roll of the ailerons, must still have been engaged.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
what I took away from it, but I don't know for certain. Obviously, and interesting that they really couldn't find anything specific to. I mean, there are all these various little things that they came across, but not certain which was the main fault.
They do point out though that if the aileron servo clutch had failed to disengage, it would have created a heavy feel in both directions, not just in one direction. So they weren't sure. It seems to me like they didn't really come up with a cause for this. So it's a case of keep flying it and hope for the best.
They replaced, some of the main components there that hopefully would have been one of the causes.
So they replaced
aileron servo, autopilot computer number 1, computer number 2, autopilot controller, accelerometer, all the things that might be the usual suspects there for the issue. So.
So they threw some darts at the dartboard until they came up with a number.
Sometimes.
I had a control restriction in a Hawk once that I was flying, and it was in pitch. There was a definite restriction that you had to push through to get full and free movement. And I brought the aircraft back, landed it, and the engineers spent days looking, couldn't find any reason for it. So they said, would you mind taking it up again? Hello, is that an autopilot?
That was actually what they found when they inspected the controls.
Right. Yeah. So I took it up again, and lo and behold, managed to find the same problem. When I landed, I said, I had this problem again, and on the taxi in, I'd noticed that it had freed. So I went, but it was fine on the ground. It took a lot of investigation. Turned out the aircraft battery was not secured properly. And when you took off, the thrust moved the battery rearwards a little bit until it impinged on the control cables right near
Well, that's not good.
a wheel.
Yeah.
And when you braked on landing, the battery returned
Freed it
to
up.
its normal
And
position.
it looks fun.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
So-
We detect no problem. Hmm.
Exactly. Yes. Well, I was
glad
a
they
bit
found that, 'cause that's
miffed
not-
that they made me go and fly it again.
Yeah, I know, right? You want to go fly it again? Not really. You fly it.
That's right.
Tell me what you think.
Exactly right. You want to come in the back seat with me, and if we crash, you'll be able to know exactly what went wrong.
Yeah. Did they give you extra pay for being a test pilot?
Yeah, no.
I'm a little disappointed it wasn't this little animal in the little what do you
he
call
got
that thing?
tired.
Cage. Yeah. Oh well. Exercise wheel, thanks. Or something like a little animal like this caught in the cables. Okay. Yeah. Last but not least, we have this. Let's see. NASA's Ingenuity Mars helicopter flies successfully twice. And Nick, since you kind of suggested we talk about this, I'm going to hand it over to you, sir.
Well, I didn't. I actually, it was part of my plane tale. But when I realised that it was very likely to be in the news, I gave Liz the text, and she turned it into those notes. Now, but I'm happy to
Liz,
talk about
we'll
it.
bring Liz on, then she can cover it.
No, happily.
Okay, ready, Liz?
Because
Is it in the
as
is it
we
in the
probably
plane
have-
tail though? Should we just wait for the plane tail or?
No,
it's not.
I replaced it with something else.
Oh,
and
well then.
gave Liz the text so that she could use it.
Well, tell us what, I mean, people that have never heard of the Ingenuity Mars
I can't
helicopter.
believe there's anyone in the world has an interest in aviation, doesn't know there's a helicopter
Well, that's
sitting
true.
on the planet Mars, a drone, called Ingenuity, and became the first aircraft in history to make a powered controlled flight on another planet. Much of the joy, I have to say, of the Jet Propulsion Lab and the staff there, because when I saw them cheering when this damn thing got airborne, I was going, well, hey, they were really excited, weren't they?
It's like they really didn't think it would work.
Well, you know, you
Yes.
put a lot of work and engineering into something, and until it actually flies,
Yeah,
I guess there's a
absolutely.
chance it
And
might
this
not.
is not like building a drone here on Earth, because, of course, the atmosphere is so different in Mars. The gravity is different. They had to do a lot of theoretical work to devise a system that was going to stand a chance of flying. And I think the fact that they got it all right and it worked was absolutely brilliant. So it's solar powered, and it first became airborne at 3:34 in the morning, EDT, Eastern Daylight Time.
Yep.
There you go. Or 12:33 local mean solar time. that's the time on Mars. I think the only people that care about that is the rover
think
that's
that's on
sitting
my
there.
The day on Mars is referred to as a soul.
Yeah.
Someone in chat will
I know
correct me on
this
that,
this
but yeah.
rover thing's got a few arms, but I didn't see a wristwatch on it. But there you go. It took off. It climbed to 10 feet. And then did a nice hover for 30 seconds and then descended back down again. So it worked. But I got a few facts about the whole thing, which I thought was quite interesting, because the drone, I don't know if you've bought a drone, Jeff. I bought a cheap one from US Robotics, a Solo, that the company went broke. But they still had these really quite natty drones, and I bought mine for about $360 in B&H Photo, and it flies brilliantly. But a DJI Phantom will set you back about $1,500. This one will set you back $80 million US dollars, with another $5 million in operating costs. To be fair, it does a few things, not much more than your average drone, mind you. However, it can fly in an atmosphere that's only 1% as dense as that on the Earth. So it would be equivalent of chucking your drone out at 100,000 feet and flying it around, which would be pretty impressive. So it's a good thing that the gravity on Mars is just a little over a third here on Earth. So it doesn't need actually to generate as much lift as it would here. It flies completely autonomously since radio signals can take up to 20 minutes. Apparently, Mars is on a sort of elliptical orbit, so at times it's close, at times it's far away, and radio signals vary from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. But since it can only fly for 90 seconds, if you got into trouble, by the time you sent a command, it would already have crashed.
Too late. Too late.
Exactly. Right.
That I didn't read that particular bullet point that you have there, and I was thinking to myself, trying to wrap my head around how do you control something that, we have latency sometimes doing like this internet stuff and
Yes.
the doing the stream and all that kind of stuff, but not 20 minutes. It's not that bad.
That would
So it has to
probably
be
make podcasting impossible for us.
It would. So it's got some sophisticated autonomy in it, and it has to be pre-programmed for each flight.
That makes sense now.
It has contra-rotating props and a big span, of course. It needs it because of the thin atmosphere, about 4 foot span, 1.2 meters, and they spin at a pretty impressive 2,500 revs per minute, which is pretty fast. I think that's pretty impressive. It can talk to Mars rover through a radio link. It carries 2 cameras, one kind of looking forward and a cheap nasty one looking down. I think one of them is only black and white.
A cheap nasty one, probably only a couple
nasty
of them.
Black and white one. Looks down. It has a Garmin LiDAR for ground mapping, and it uses a laser altimeter. I suspect that's probably the least expensive or least weight penalty, a laser altimeter. It can charge itself up through its panels, but it can only fly for 90 seconds, I guess, before the batteries run flat. So it can go about 160 feet, 50 meters downrange before it has to turn around and come back again. Its design life is only for 5 flights. So I guess that's all they've guaranteed it for. But
warranty runs out after 5 flights.
Yes, it does. And there's not many people you can complain to on Mars if you have a fault. So that it comes to about $17 million per flight, per 90 seconds of flight. Which
Liz is asking if there is a option for an extended warranty.
You could well be. Yeah, it'll be another 80 million.
I'm sure that those folks are already calling the JPL like 2 or 3 times a day to let them know. Just what we've been trying to get in touch with you to let you know that your car warranty, your helicopter,
exactly right,
Mars helicopter warranty is about to expire. This is your last chance.
They did their best to test it here on Earth. To try and see if it would actually cope. They took it up to the Antarctic, or down to the Antarctic, because the Antarctic's at the bottom, isn't it? So they flew it down, or took it down there to see how it would cope with cold temperatures, and they flew it in a vacuum chamber with the equivalent atmosphere of Mars. But because the gravity here is a lot more, they put a string on top of it and sort of hung a spring and a bit of string so that it would simulate Mars gravity. And, of course, the one fact that everyone's latched onto, which I think is absolutely brilliant, and if you're going to do something, do this. They cut a tiny square of fabric, about the size of a postage stamp, from the original Wright Flyer and put it on this drone. So it's carried a bit of the first powered aircraft ever to get airborne and taken it all the way to Mars, which I think is fantastic.
So one other very interesting fact, which I actually kind of liked from this week, I forget where I saw it, somewhere on a news article on Twitter, I think, but the world's current oldest living person was born in January of 1903, which means that they were alive, although very, very young, when the original Wright Flyer made its first flight, and alive for this flight as well.
Wow,
pretty fantastic.
Incredible.
On the rover,
Like
as well,
118.
didn't they?
Yeah. What's that?
I said that, and they put that person on the Mars rover.
Right.
That's right, yes.
We haven't heard from.
So
Yeah,
that just puts things in perspective. How far,
They also have some video footage of a Martian walking up and seeing this little piece of fabric and goes,
like-
and throws it away.
Yes, that's right. And there's another Martian in a rocking chair with a shotgun that, is being trying
Get
to
off my front
shoot-
porch.
Yep, that's the one. Shoot
off
it
my
down.
lawn.
Get off my yard. Get off my yard. He's on the front
Get off my-
porch.
Get off
Get
my
off my
door,
front.
dirt.
Yeah.
Whatever.
My plot of dirt.
Oh dear. But I think it's absolutely brilliant they've managed to achieve this. I love the way that it actually dropped out of the bottom of the rover. It had been specifically designed just to be able to drop out, sit on the ground, and then the rover drove off and left it there. Right? Very clever.
Rover and Rover, go on right over. How's that game go? Red Rover, Red Rover.
Red Rover, send
Send
Nicholas over.
Stephanie right over.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
But I like that one. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Wow, that's pretty cool. You wouldn't think about how difficult it is and all the things they had to think about, the atmosphere and the gravity and everything else to make that thing actually work. So now I can see why they were so excited.
The
Hey,
stability,
really worked.
yeah. Yep. And
Did our
the weight of
calculations
it.
correctly.
Yeah, it only weighs just over a kilo. It's really very impressive.
Wow. All right, very good. Well, there you go. That is what we have for you this week in aviation news. And now it's time to get to know us. It's the time of the show where we kind of talk about what we have all been doing since the last episode. And I believe the last episode was about exactly a week ago, last Friday, I believe. Right?
It was.
I have no idea.
Indeed. Yes.
I've lost track of all day and time. I don't know. What is
We
it?
now
Where am I?
use
Who am I?
PT UK as our warm-up show.
That's
and
right.
We're
Yes.
the main feature on our
There you go. Not really, but it kind of works out that way. Thank you, PT UK guys and gals.
Yeah.
But I know it was last Friday because I only had 2 days off before I had to go back out. No, that's not right. I had like 5 days off. Never mind. Complain. Never mind.
As bad as I am.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I only have 2 days now to get this darn thing edited and published by Sunday night before I leave on my next trip. But
Gotcha.
that's neither here
Well,
nor there.
If it's all right with you, I'd like to go first because then I'm actually going to leave for a little bit of time, and I will tell you why
sure.
here in a moment.
Go ahead.
But I do need to go here momentarily.
Go ahead.
So yeah, since it's been fairly busy week for me, so since last week when we did the show, flew all day on Saturday and Sunday, which was very nice. A couple nice days for flying, sunny weather. Not much exciting happening there. Just a lot of time spent going up and down to 14,000 feet over and over and over again. And then I took a quick trip up to New Hampshire. A very good friend of mine from med school lives up there, and I went to visit them for not a very long amount of time. But interesting trip in that for the second time now, there was a medical emergency on the aircraft while still parked at the gate before we pushed back to leave to come back to Charlotte. I'd attended to one previously similar, happened at the gate. This one went very well. Just a young lady who, for uncertain reason, fainted, had a little faint episode at the rear of the aircraft, so they had her in the back galley by the time I got there, and already starting to come back around, but a little bit confused, unsure of where she was, and EMS was there very quickly, so mostly I just, assess the situation, make sure that vital signs were stable, and that she was starting to improve with her ability to think, and made sure that, because she was laying down when I got there, I didn't know if she had hit her head or anything like that, so just making sure that she wasn't tender or sore anywhere, could move everything normally, could follow commands, that type of thing, and everything turned out very well. So, my thanks to the emergency medical system was there very quickly, so that was very good, and all's well that ends well there. No one else responded, just me. I was the only person who got up to attend to that particular
good
medical
for you.
situation, and basically the entire aircraft was boarded. I think there were 5 people who hadn't gotten on the plane yet, so very full of people.
I'll bet there were some other medical professionals on board that just didn't want to get involved.
I take it back. Actually, a nurse did get up as well, but because it was a small space, and it was looked like it was going to be a positive outcome no matter what. She just sat down and yeah, so it was good. So that was interesting. And then I've just been, I'm off work this week, which is very nice.
I'm just curious, Steph, did they upgrade you or were you already upgraded?
No, I should thank American Airlines though, because they did deposit some bonus miles into my account for me.
Oh, okay.
For attending to
nice.
which was very nice and unexpected, and certainly not the reason why you get up and assist in a potential emergency. You just want to make sure everyone's safe and healthy and a good outcome. Yeah, but that was very nice and very unexpected. So my thanks to them. I was already sitting in 1A just to make Nev proud. Which did mean it took me, about 20 seconds to get to the back of the air because there were people standing in the aisle still, and but yeah, no, it was a good situation, and hopefully she's doing well. Like I said, by the time EMS showed up, responsive, answering questions mostly appropriately, and had friends with her who were able to provide some. Well, she was, a little confused, as you might well be if you pass out or faint, and.
I worry if I've ever in that situation as being the victim and you ask me questions and I answer in my normal way and people will say, well, that's entirely inappropriate. You're not answering questions appropriately.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. So, but no, hopefully they were either able to identify a cause or, check things out and make sure that everything was, as it should be, and eventually she was able to get on her way to her final destination. She did not take that flight, obviously. Had friends with her, and they were more than willing to stay with her and stay behind and make sure everything went okay. So that was good. Good outcome. And then I was starting to say, yep, off work this week. So just been doing a lot of work around the house. Can't tell anything. I have not gotten to the office yet. This is due for a thorough cleaning as well. So I'll get to that hopefully next day or two. And the reason I have to leave here, basically the next minute or two, is to go pick up my car from the car dealership. I took it in for some scheduled maintenance, as well as being very overdue for an oil change and tire rotation, because I've been neglecting that recently. And yeah, I took it in early this morning, 8 o'clock. Should have been done, by noon at the latest for all the stuff that they wanted to do for the scheduled maintenance at 60,000 miles. And they did. They called me around 11:30, said, well, the good news is all of the mechanical work is done. The bad news is when we were parking your car, it made contact with a light pole in the parking lot, and there is a slight scuff on the bumper, so we're going to replace your bumper. Can you leave your car here all day? So they just called me to say that it was completed. So now I also have a brand new rear
I'm not
bumper.
very impressed with Jeep's bumpers. If a slight scuff requires an entire replacement.
Well, the reason being, so they're plastic. I mean, the covering is plastic, but this just solidified my previous decision to. I've owned quite a few Jeeps now, and you can get them painted, like painted body color, and I have never done that because the black plastic ones are basically plug and play. So if you take a corner too close or something and ding one of the fenders or bump into something with the bumper, if it's bad enough that you want to just trade it out, they cost, you can get them on eBay for like $75 to $150 and just replace it.
I'm going to say if I had a Jeep, I'd want it to have some honourable wounds, covered in dents and bashes, and like I've driven it through a desert a few times. So.
Yeah. Well, maybe
I think you
someday.
and Steph have different ideas about the appearance of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Well,
so, but apparently it all fixed. So I want to get there before they close to inspect it and just make sure that they have repaired everything that needs to be.
You better get going. They close
repaired.
at 6, right?
Yeah, I know. I gotta go.
Yeah.
So.
Anything else? So you're off this past week or next week?
Off both. Yes.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I've got stuff going on. It's just not work at the moment, which is kind of nice.
Right.
So, but yes. So anyway, I will rejoin as soon as I can. I just need to go retrieve my car. It's about 10, 15 minutes down the road, and then I will return sometime during feedback. Okay. All right.
Drive
see you.
safely.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Captain Nick, how have you been, sir?
Captain Jeff, I have been fine, thank you very much. A busy week. I had my first photo shoot of the year because lockdown is easing progressively, and more things are opening up. So I had my first client out and took the 5 completely lunatic dogs up and did my best to take pictures. And that's been pretty much it, actually. Tomorrow, there's one of the...
Oh, wow. Great.
Tomorrow, the bowl screen opens, so off for a practice. And then the other good news is second vaccine is on Tuesday. So be all jabbed up and feeling very happy. So that's really been it. Nothing, sadly, flying related, although I'm well ahead on plane tails now. So, you know, if things do get busy, I've got a couple in hand, so we've got something to do.
Okay. So, much like we receive feedback and other items in our email, and we also have, and I've, like, was it the last episode I showed you the, Dave Ogden did the Boeing 717 3D printed model.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I have
remember
snail
that.
mail. Did
That's
you
great.
receive anything through snail mail this week, Nick?
No,
From
no.
the post? No? Okay.
Yeah, eventually.
I tried, Liz.
I was going to mention it when we came onto the plane tail bit, because I'm talking partly today in the plane tail about Rolls-Royce. And today I got a lovely, or it was yesterday, T-shirt. And when you say snail mail, this one came from Canada. It's got a brilliant Rolls Merlin engine logo on the front, and of course it's made by Red Canoe, so they make lovely T-shirts. So thank you very much indeed for producer Liz for firing that in my direction. She knows I love things like this, and she thought they were 2 of my favourite subjects. She got that right. Yeah, it was sent on about the 6th of February.
Yeah,
It's
February
taken
7th, she sent it.
So yeah,
You just
so
got it
it's taken a
yesterday.
while to get here. I'm think the postman, just had to claw his way through the wilds of Canada and shoot a few bears, and then he probably had to lasso a whale and ride that to Greenland, and then make his way over Greenland. And what he did after that, I'm not sure, but it took him a long time to get here. He arrived looking haggard in his snowshoes and his beaver cap with the tail hanging down.
Some bear blood stains
That's it.
his clothing.
Delivered it personally, and then with a sigh, he apologized and turned and set off back for Canada.
Yeah. And then he keeled over dead. But
You've seen
most
the film,
important thing-
is it The Revenant or something?
Revenant,
is it?
yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like for
Oh,
him,
I
poor
see.
chap. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Heroic effort to get here. But anyway,
Well,
I've got a lovely T-shirt. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing. Got the T-shirt.
Yeah. Brilliant T-shirt.
Been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. So, let's see. Last show, I was thinking I only had 2 days off, but I was wrong. I had 5 days off. And got the show published on Sunday, did my normal singing stuff over the weekend. And we had some confirmations, more singing than normal. Both Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, and Sunday afternoon. And so I it took me a little bit longer to get the show edited and published, but I got it published, I believe. No, it wasn't until Monday night that I finally got it out there. Sorry, it took a little bit longer. I had an appointment to see an oral surgeon on Monday for a consultation because, many of you know me and probably consider me to be a very wise man. And, no, not wise ASS, Liz, wise in my incredible intellect. Well, I have 6 wisdom teeth, which is not common, and 4 wisdom teeth on the left side of my jaw or mouth, and regular 2 on the other side. And sadly, it has nothing to do with being wise. They just call it wisdom teeth for some stupid reason. Anyway, dentists have been trying to convince me since I was a lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force back in the mid '80s that I should get these things removed, and I was very stubborn and said, nope, I don't want to have anybody messing around with those things. And finally, my last dental checkup, my dentist was saying, nah, you got a cavity in this one on the upper right, and I can't get to it. And so definitely have to at least pull that one. But I recommend, because there's some, gum disease stuff, some things going on in the mouth she was concerned about. So she finally shamed me into getting this consult with a oral surgeon. So I did that on Monday, and they're going to set up a surgery for me sometime, probably maybe May, but maybe in June, probably more likely. And it'll be the full general anesthesia and everything else. And I've never, ever been, I could go to Mohammed. His mom is a dentist. You're very welcome in her clinic. Okay, well, I'll just hop right on over to Baghdad then. That won't be a problem.
I'm just curious, when they take your wisdom teeth out, do they go in through the top of your head or in through the bottom?
I'll definitely not be wise. No, I guess through my mouth. And I was thinking about that because they said that in my case, because mine's kind of complicated and some impacted stuff going on in my jaw and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I think you'd be much more comfortable being completely out of it, general anesthesia. But I'm thinking, don't they ever? No, no, Liz, I've not ever had general anesthesia. I've never had an operation / surgery or anything. I've never been into the hospital for them to work on me. I've been there to visit people and the birth of my children, but not anybody operating on me. So I'm not really excited about this. Anyway, so general anesthesia, don't they put the thing over your nose and mouth?
They knock you out with an injection. I think
or a hammer.
They can keep you under using gas, but they don't have to. They can just...
I guess I could just put some stuff in my nose, like a nasal cannula or whatever they call it.
Well,
maybe, I don't know.
I'm guessing
anyway, I don't want to
could.
talk about it. It's making me kind of feel queasy just talking about it. Yeah,
just ask for the good stuff. Okay, pay for the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then he said, in your case, so this is kind of a little. I was trying to read between the lines. He says, at your age, and this is a pretty, extensive kind of oral surgery. It's probably going to be, you're going to be out of work at least a week, at least. And then he said, I would recommend to you this new painkiller thing that basically numbs the back of your mouth for like 72 hours or something like that. He said that the downside is that because it's so new, most insurance companies don't pay for it. And I said, well, how much is it? He said $250. And I go, oh yeah, for sure. That's not a problem. I don't want to have pain. Yeah.
Well, does that mean you'll be dribbling and unable to control your tongue for like 72 hours?
Unable to control my tongue like you, or like literally physically? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as I said, I'm probably going to be out when this happens. There'll probably be a week or so or more that we're not going to be able to do a show, a hiatus of the APG. But and hopefully I don't die when I'm under general anesthesia. But you never know. But it was nice knowing you all.
If I prayed, I would say a prayer for you, but you're going to have to do without that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, Liz is saying, can we take life insurance out on you? And I think you actually can do that. You can take life insurance out on people.
Yeah, when I was in the Air Force, I bought a motorcycle. Everyone was so convinced I'd kill myself. They stopped contributing to the football pools, which is kind of gambling on football results, and decided to take out a life insurance policy on me instead because they thought they had a better chance of getting their money back, getting some money. Good payout.
Thanks for your support.
Yeah.
I showed them.
I'm still here. Yeah. I only came off 3 times.
Yeah. Sedation works great, according to John McElree in our live audience. So initially my dentist thought I was just going to have what did he call that, Liz? The twilight sedation sleep or something like that. She says, you're kind of like in and out of sleep, and you're kind of awake
That's
and aware of what's
rohypnol.
going on, but you just don't really care. Well, that's me normally, actually. But in this case, he goes, yeah, I think you'd be much more comfortable, completely out. Oh gosh.
There you go.
Anyway, so that's what I have to look forward to. Not
So when you've had these out, you're going to be like the rest of us, stupid. Yeah.
just not as smart
Just
as
like
I
a
am now.
regular stupid person.
Exactly. I don't know. I'll probably be a vegetable. One of the things he said is that it could be because it's so close to one of the nerves in the back of my mouth on the left side that sometimes they'll like this part, your left lip area and your chin area is like permanently, like it never recovers and it's always numb for the rest of your life. Yeah, I'm not going to I have stopped playing the trumpet anyway, so I guess it's not a problem. I said, well, does that mean I'm not going to be able to talk and I'm going to be drooling all the time? And he said, no. I went, oh, okay, good. So we'll see.
Not all the time.
The truth is out. What is the truth? A lengthy cover-up story to hide your upcoming butt lift surgery. Darn it. Wow. How did you figure that out so quickly, Jake?
Yeah.
I got a butt lift for you, Jake. Not even sure what that means. Yeah. So, well, I'll keep you up to date on how that all transpires.
We want
Yeah,
pictures,
I think
by
June,
the
because
way.
there's this facility, they do the surgery in, that's not a hospital. It's their own oral
It's a
surgery.
veterinary surgery.
It's like a walk-in closet somewhere in a hotel. And they asked me about my kidneys too for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you
I'll
wake up in a
without
nice cold bath? Yeah, could you ask them for pictures, please, so that we can put them on the show?
That
Yes?
was the thing that really got
Yes?
me upset about the Air Force dentist. He said, "Oh, I'd like to have these things out, and it's going to be like a major surgery, and we're going to videotape it, and I'm going to invite some of my fellow doctors to be there." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't want to be the center of this freak show. So I said, no. Is it something I have to do, or is this elective surgery? And he said, it's elective. And I went, okay, I elect not to do it. I can make sure they save the teeth. You can make cufflinks and a tie-tack set. Thanks, Michael. No, that's not very pleasant. Anyway, enough of that. I was on a three-day trip Wednesday through Friday this week, and really enjoyed flying with this co-pilot. I'd flown with him once before. He was a guy that Steph and I invited to go with us to the White Duck taco place, shop or whatever they call it. And he elected not to. Of course, he didn't know we were going to the White Duck taco place, and he was kind of bummed out when he found out that's where we went. But so I flew with him again today, or last couple of days. Really nice guy. And he also accompanied me last night for a mini meetup with David Lieb. Dave Lieb, who is in the chat room, and he lives up in Massachusetts, not far from Providence, Rhode Island. And he drove down and picked us up from the courtyard, and I suggested that we go to one of my favorite places in that downtown Providence area called Trinity Brew House. And we had a great meal, and I recorded some audio. And so let's have a listen. Where is it? Well, it has been quite a while since we've had an audio clip from a meetup on our show because of this whole C-19 thing, pandemic. But anyway, meetups have resumed. And I am here in Providence, Rhode Island, with someone who I had a meetup with in Memphis, Tennessee, a little over a year ago, January of 2020, before the year of COVID. And his name is David Lieb. And just to remind you, he is a musician, guitar and keyboards. And he's also a music teacher, and he's just an all-around great guy, basically. And he lives up here in this area in Framingham, I think. Is that what you? Yeah, okay. But he drove down from there to Providence to meet up with myself and my first officer, Chris. And we're at Trinity Brew House, which I really love this place. Great beer, great food, and we're and of course, great camaraderie and conversation and all that jazz. Anyway, so we're going to let Dave say a quick something to you, and then we're going to, I don't know if Chris is in the mood for having a microphone in his face or not, but we're going to find out. It's a teaser.
Hello, everyone. Hello, APG community and crew. It's good to be down here in Providence with Captain Jeff and First Officer Chris here. Jeff said we're having a great time. Just had an early dinner and a couple beers here. And it's really great because it's been a very, very interesting year since we last saw each other. And especially as a full-time musician and music educator, it's had its challenges, but some great things have also come out of it. So thank heavens for APG keeping me sane at least 50% of the time.
At least 50% of the time. And as I was watching you talk into this microphone, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, he is not wearing a mask. This is dangerous. Dangerous, I'm telling you. Anyway, well, here is my FO, Chris.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris, Captain Jeff's FO now for the second time. And we have flown 2 very fun rotations together and gone to some pretty cool places. And he's very enjoyable to fly with. He's got excellent airmanship abilities. I just hope that he can learn the box and the airplane a little bit better.
Hey, wait a minute. You didn't tell me you were going to say this kind of stuff. I'll edit this out.
But it's been a pleasure to fly with him. This place is great, and I look forward to future rotations as long as he's still on the fleet.
Oh, my gosh.
Maybe we should tell the folks about your landing today.
No, we're not going to talk about my landing today.
If you can walk away from it, it was a great landing.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad, actually, for the wing.
The airplane again, it was a terrific
Wow. Man, I think that it was I guess my perception of being an old geezer as I am is getting just really skewed because I didn't think it was that bad, especially for, what was it, 30-something knot crosswind?
It was challenging.
Yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for your support, Chris. No, no, it's funny because I'm kind of at that phase of my career now. I feel like in the Air Force when the DO or the wing commander goes out to fly an airplane, they always put up with a very, very experienced instructor pilot to go with them just to make sure that they don't crash the airplane. I kind of feel like Chris is my very experienced instructor pilot flying with me today. You do? You got extra pay, huh?
Chief pilot, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank God I have all these guardian angels looking after me. Anyway, that's okay. I'm okay. I'm cool with that, actually. So, anyway, that's it. Enough for this meetup. We're having a great time, and hope to do many, many more of these in the future. And for those of you out there who are in areas of the world that aren't recovering as quickly as we are here in the U.S., we really feel for you, and we really hope that everything gets back to normal as quickly as possible. And maybe one of these days, probably not this year, maybe next year, we'll have another big, worldwide APG event again, because that's just a great time. So anyway, that's enough, and signing off. Back to you in the studio, Jeff. Well, thank you, Jeff, for that live report at Trinity Brewhouse.
Very good. I hope you gave your FO a good slapping.
He's a really good guy, and it was really laid back flying with him, and he's the kind of guy that just pretty much does everything. All the show up into the cockpit, and he goes, "Okay, everything's done." I went, "Oh, cool, love it." I did do some cold weather. Right now we're having a cold snap here in the U.S. and in Canada too. I would suppose, and so I put I was wearing my uniform jacket, which is something that is an optional thing. It's the summer uniform time frame at my airline. But I always kind of hang on to that jacket a little bit longer because I don't want to be uncomfortable. I get cold easily, I guess. I'm an old guy. But so I had my jacket with me because I actually, took the time to actually look to see what the temperatures were going to be in Omaha, Nebraska, and Providence, Rhode Island. Apparently, Chris didn't do that, and he didn't have. He wore his summer uniform, short sleeve shirt, and that kind of thing. So I felt sorry for him, and I did all those walkarounds in all those cold places. Like, what a nice guy I am.
You are, absolutely.
So
we had a rule in our airline that whatever dress the captain decided to wear, everybody else on the flight deck had to be dressed the same.
Did you coordinate before you showed up for a report, or did you just automatically have everything with you at all times?
I always wore a jacket. So
I know, but
if an FO pitched up without a jacket, then I'll go, "Where's your bloody jacket?"
Make him feel bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he should probably show up, assuming that you wear the whole uniform, and then if you say, "Let's not wear the jacket,"
he can always hang it in the crew room and leave it there till his next trip if it's not needed, or you can put it in his suitcase or whatever.
That makes sense. I like that. Maybe I'll make that a rule as well. I'll just call up everybody and say, "You better damn well have."
Well, it was the company's rule after the new uniform. They wanted everyone to look the same.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, actually. And I'm kind of one of those people that, I think we should wear. No, I shouldn't say that because then people are going to get upset with me. But I think we should wear it year round, actually. In fact, when I was first hired, and for quite a number of years thereafter, it was a required. It didn't matter if it was summer or winter time. You had to wear your jacket.
Well, I happen to think it looks good because once you've been on the flight deck for a few hours, your white shirt starts to look a bit raggedy and crumpled.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to get off with a sweat stained back and crumpled shirt. You want to
plus
hide
all
it
the
with
stuff
a
that you
jacket.
spill on your shirt. Gets
exactly
covered up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, well, that's it. Back out again on Monday. I'm flying with Brent, one of my favorite co-pilots to fly with, and we're gonna have layovers in. No, he does not criticize my landings. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, he has respect for me and his elders. No, we had a lot of fun. He would be bad mouthing, bad talking. I'm sitting in the cockpit and he's saying goodbye to people and saying, rude things about me and trash talking me. So that was fun. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, Brent and I next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we have a layover in Oklahoma City the first day, and then over in Buffalo, New York, on Tuesday, and right now it looks like we're going to be meeting up with the wonderful APG librarian, Miss Tiffany, and we'll likely go to somewhere that has barbecue, probably. So anyway, looking forward to that, and that's it. Coffee fun time. Thank you, Liz. So here we go. Jeff, hit it.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
Okay, Dave, will you sing with me?
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right. Again, that's Jeff Smith, the Jingle King, and Coffee Fund. Why don't you consider becoming part of the Coffee Fund cadre or the Coffee Bar Club, which is our group of people that support us and the show financially, and a couple different ways to do that. And one of them is something we like to call the Coffee Fund Classic Method. And since the last episode, we have, oh look, Dave Lieb is there again. He and Chris Randall and Kevin Dryden all contributed to our Coffee Fund. Thank you guys for that. We do appreciate it. Another way to support the show financially is something called Patreon. You can become a patron of the show and like a patron of the arts. Yeah, our show is not really art, but use your imagination. Abstract art. Thank you, Liz. And ironic art. So it's like a thing where you pledge a certain amount, and then every episode, you give us that amount that you pledged, and it's great. So check out all of that by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. Okay. Yeah, I can't stretch the music out anymore, Liz, so I will just wait until Nick comes back. He's still on his potty break. Thank you, Dave, because he mentioned that when he hears me singing the Coffee Fund, he's singing and harmonizing with me in the background. Although, Dave, you're going to have to sing louder. I didn't hear you. Did you hear him at all, Liz? No? Okay. Yeah. So, we're good, Nick?
Yes, we are, sir.
Awesome. Everything came out all right. That's good. Okay. Yeah? Okay, thanks. 13 after is the 2-hour mark, Nick, just for your awareness.
Okay.
And
should get through a few before then.
Yeah, I think we should be able to knock out a couple here. So, let me see. Let me hit this one right here.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay, you'll remember back a week ago, one of the it was the actual last.
I can try. I'm not sure if I can.
Well,
go back that far.
Just try hard. You can do it. So we covered our last piece of feedback last week, and I misunderstood what Liz was trying to tell me in my ears. I thought she was telling me that Alan from Talon was with us in the chat room, and so I thought, okay, we can, we're going to go over a little bit, but let's go ahead and cover his feedback. And then I come to find out that I misunderstood what she was telling me, and he's not there. He wasn't there, but he is here today, right? Is he still with us in the live audience? I think he is. He was here with us earlier, so hopefully he's still there. Anyway, and so we kind of talked a little bit about it, teased this thing a little bit, and then I thought, or we all decided, maybe it would be best if we just kind of move this to the next episode, which is now. And because the thing that he has referenced and sent us a link to is really, really interesting. Yep, he's still there. Good. So I'm going to reread his feedback to us that he initially sent. But before I do, he sent in some email after last show. And he said, "Hello again, APG crew. I didn't expect to be writing again this soon, but I just finished listening to the APG episode 468. To be honest, I was amazed that my feedback made an appearance on the show so soon after I had sent it. I'm glad you found this topic to be worthy of further discussion. And getting my single piece of feedback to show up on 2 different episodes is definitely a big deal, as Captain Jeff suggested." Yeah, I was being sarcastic, though, I think. Anyway, I noticed that the pronunciation of Talon caused a little bit of confusion. I hope you don't mind me commenting on that. No, in this case, Alan, I don't mind at all. In case there are linguistic enthusiasts around, as a general rule, with exceptions to the rule, of course, in Estonian language, the stress is placed on the first syllable of words, meaning that in the name Talon, the emphasis is on the beginning of the word A. The I is pronounced short. So Captain Jeff's first mention of Alan from Talon sounded perfect. Let me read that again. No, I'm not going to read that again. Oh, yes. I can also try to help out Captain Jeff with the confusion about who is Miami Mike. As Dr. Steph also suggested on the show, it was something from the earlier episodes, probably pre-200, but I can't find the exact episode now. I've quite recently been listening to the earlier shows to catch up with all of the APG history. I still have episodes 212 to 237 to go. Then I'm all caught up. Strong symptoms of the APG syndrome, I guess. Yes, sadly. Good that I got my medical renewed just recently. Anyway, if I recall it correctly, someone in a feedback referred to Miami Rick as Miami Mike, likely by accident, but the name made a few more appearances afterwards in the following shows. I guess Miami Mike is long forgotten by now, at least by me, because I wasn't really sure what that reference was to. But now I kind of sort of remember that whole thing when somebody referred to Rick as Miami Mike. So
no,
okay,
I don't remember that, I must admit. And
Yeah.
I've been back to the beginning once and worked my way through. I'm not going to do it again.
Well, so Nick, this is where you, as I just did, pretend that you are recalling that time.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. That's,
yeah. See? Yeah.
That was quite funny, actually.
I know.
Mike.
I mean,
that was good.
Even though we were both in our 60s, we still have really good memories.
Absolutely. Yeah. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Where am I? What am I doing here? Okay. In conclusion to my not so short follow-up, thanks for covering my feedback so soon. I look forward to listening to the next show for the continuation of the discussion on the Airbus incident, and I will do my best to join the live chat during the next recording. Yes, he's here. I've joined the live audience in the past a few times, but living in the UTC +2 time zone, UTC +3 in the summer, which means right now, right? It's UTC +3. It's like in the middle of the night right now, I think. Usually makes it a bit tricky. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Best wishes, Alan. And he says, P.S. If anyone on the crew or in the community is interested in having a look at occasional photos of my aviation life in Estonia, then my Insta handle is Captain Talver, CaptainTalver. He's still here. Yep. And wow, 1 a.m. Wow, good on you. Thank you for sticking with us, Alan. And now, let me read the original feedback. Greetings to the whole APG community. Finally, after several years of listening to your wonderful podcast, I've reached the point where I've decided to send you my first feedback. Well, actually, now, never mind. First, a few words to introduce myself to the community. My name is Alan, and I'm from Tallinn, Estonia, an IT engineer by day, but also an instrument-rated commercial pilot. And as the most recent addition to my aviation-related achievements, just this Monday, I also passed my flight instructor skill test. Yay, and enter the applause like we did last time.
That was brilliant, yes.
Yeah.
Well done.
Great. I've been flying since 2016 when I started with my private pilot training. It was a couple of years after having received a demo flight lesson as a birthday gift. The idea that I could fly an airplane was planted on that day. Interestingly enough, it was only about 10 years ago when I had my first flight ever on any aircraft. It was a holiday trip to Greece. Before that trip, I was highly convinced that airplanes are an extremely dangerous way of traveling, and I would definitely use ground-based transportation whenever I need to travel for the rest of my life. But those first experiences opened my eyes, introduced me to the world of aviation, and I quickly became hooked. So, when I was 30 years old, I decided that I had to take action and at least get the private pilot license, with a plan to then decide if I want to take it any further. We have a saying in Estonia that the appetite grows while eating. When put into the context of my flying endeavors, meant that after having received my private pilot license, I quickly decided that I definitely want to go on. A year later, I went for my ATPL theory training in Bristol, followed by instrument rating back in Estonia, and a commercial single-engine training in Germany. The idea was to move towards a commercial aviation career, but COVID has imposed some adjustments on my plans. Luckily, I got the offer to start as a part-time flight instructor, and I'm really excited about it, even if it wasn't in my initial plans at all. So I decided to send you this feedback today because I recently found an interesting article, which I'll link below. Usually there isn't much noteworthy going on in Estonia, at least when it comes to aviation, but a few years ago there was an accident in Tallinn with an Airbus A320 making an emergency landing with both engines badly damaged, one being on fire and neither one producing any significant amount of thrust. The result were minor injuries due to heavy touchdown on unprepared surface and a total write-off of the airframe. But overall, the crew managed to handle the situation well and avoided much worse possible outcomes. Luckily, they managed to glide the airplane back to the airport, even though the touchdown was short of the runway. In my opinion, compared to my landing in Providence with the 30-plus knot crosswind, I'd say my landing was better. In my opinion, the article is a very interesting description on how a minor fault in the system, combined with human factors, led to an extremely serious situation, a perfect example of a Swiss cheese case. I just finished listening to your discussion on Airbus system redundancies in episode 467, and that article is a nice follow-up to what you discussed. because it describes one case when a crew experienced a sequence of flight control computer failures and had to fall back on mechanical backups like controlling pitch angle via trim wheel. It would be interesting to hear what the experts on the APG panel think of this. Well, you're in luck, Alan. The experts are here. The expert, Captain Nick. By the way, this accident was also briefly covered by you in the APG episode 315 shortly after the event, but by now much more thorough analysis of what happened is available. I will also link the official investigation report below. I think that's it from me for this time. I hope there will be a day when I can also meet you in person. And if you should, for whatever reason, ever happen to be in or near Estonia, I would be very happy to meet, greet, and show you around. But until then, I wish you all the best. Alan from Talon. And so now we get to the article or the incident to which he was referring through this article in, I think it's like a blog. It was actually Admiral Cloudberg, and they posted this on medium.com. The Dark Side of Logic, the near crash of SmartLink's Estonia Flight 9001. And so should I read it or should I distill it down to what? Well, it's maybe best if I just start reading it.
It's a pretty long description, quite honestly, and gets pretty technical. A lot of it's outside my experience as well.
We've both read it and actually had some discussion about it. And I think maybe it would be best for our Airbus expert, or the closest thing we have to it here, because he has experience in the Airbus, not necessarily on the narrow body world, because from what I understand, Nick, this has some systems that aren't exactly relatable to the systems in the wide-body Airbuses that you've flew, or maybe it's because of the age of the aircraft or whatever. But I yield the floor to you to tell us about this incident.
Well, yeah, it is a difficult one for me because the structure of the flight control computers in this particular Airbus A320-21, was it? A320?
20, yeah.
It was completely different, at least certainly it appears to have different functions to what I'm used to. So I'm pretty much, going, I don't quite understand how this all links together. On our system, we had 3 primary computers and 2 secondary computers. They appear to have 2 computers which are named ELAC, which is elevator and aileron control, and 2 computers which are called SECs, which we would have called secondary computers, which they call spoiler elevator computers. So I think it probably defines the controls that each of these computers can operate. But the logic behind the way all this is set up is different to what I'm used to. So I'm kind of going, I really don't understand exactly how this all works. But what I can say is that when you're doing touch and goes in an Airbus, you need a trainer beside you, of course, because there's one guy who's learning and the trainer is coaching him through doing the circuit. But actually, when you get the aircraft on the ground, in normal flying, most line pilots would never do a touch and go. I mean, you can do a rejected landing so that your landing is so bad, you've had a really bad bounce or something's gone wrong and you decide to reject the landing with your wheels on the runway and you take off again. But that's very, very rare. On a touch and go, trainers know how this works. And I tell you, the problem is because once the airplane is on the runway, the aircraft goes, right, all the weight on wheel switches have worked. And what I'm going to do now is go into ground mode and I'm going to trim to 0 and set myself up for, the next flight effectively. And I think that trimming to 0 also has an effect of taking out any possibility of the tailplane being able to lift the nose wheel off again unexpectedly. So it trims forward to 0. If you're going to get airborne again, because you're not actually going to sit and taxi off, you're going to put the power up and get airborne again, you want to have the trim in a suitable setting for takeoff. So as that trim wheel winds forward, the trainer will say, he usually leaves the pilot in control. He usually says, stand up the thrust levers. So you move the thrust levers from fully back, where it's been as you've landed, to they're sort of vertically upwards, which is like, about third or half thrust. And he grabs the trim wheel and winds it to a suitable setting for a takeoff. And then he says, go. And you push the levers full forward toga. And then as you hit about 140 or whatever the speed is, he'll say rotate. And off you go. So it's quite common for the trainer to grab the trim wheel and stop it from continuing to rotate. And that's something that this guy was doing, which is quite normal. As they climbed away, a lot of warnings are inhibited because at that stage of flight, the Airbus want you to concentrate on flying the aircraft. And when you get to an appropriate altitude where you probably got time to look at warnings, they appear. And they were getting warnings caused by a problem with the trim, the movement of the tailplane at the back, that was triggering a fault with both the ELAC-1, one of their flight control computers, and ELAC-2. And at one point, they had faults on ELAC-1 plus ELAC-2. So two flight control computers were simultaneously showing faults. Now, they were occurring like as they were turning downwind to go and do their next circuit. And they were just going, oh, look, one of the flight control computers, or in one case, both the flight control computers controlling, primary ones, have got a fault. Oh, we'll just reset them. Now, as Jeff, I suspect any pilot would go, these reset buttons are just like circuit breakers, effectively. They take the power away from the computer and they reapply it again. On a computer, of course, you can reset a computer. If there is a transient fault that's just flagged up, that reset may get rid of the fault and it shouldn't reoccur. If you've reset a circuit breaker and it continues to pop, or in this case, reset a computer and the fault continues to reoccur, your problem isn't transitory anymore. You have got a problem with your flight controls that's triggering this warning. And anyone who flies around with continual reoccurring problems with your flight controls is pushing their luck. That's just my opinion, having flown the damned airplane for 25 years. Mm-hmm. They are very rare to have flight control faults come up.
It was my understanding. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was my understanding. First of all, you're probably gathering from what he's saying with the instructor and touch and goes that this was a training flight with an airplane that this airline had just purchased not long before, but it was not a new airplane. It was operated by another company for like 15 years or something like that. So it was new to this company, and they were using it for training flights, and that's why they were doing these touch and goes. And it was my understanding that they were not surprised that every time they went through 1,500 feet, which triggered the uninhibited the warning system, they do, as you just said, and basically reset the computer, and that was, I guess, part of their standard operating procedure for doing these training flights, and it wasn't, a big surprise to them. However, and as in many of these accidents that we call the Swiss cheese model, it just so happened that the one time that they forgot to, I guess they got distracted doing something else. Maybe they're changing seats with students. I don't know. I don't recall exactly what the issue was. They forgot to reset that elevator aileron computer that they've been doing every other circuit. And so now it's just staying there. They haven't reset it. So it's basically out, right? That computer is not working now. And then it just so happens that they have another issue. And this is, of course, the other ELAC number 2 that fails. And then now you've dug yourself into a really big hole, right? Because now both ELAC computers are basically have shut themselves off. And when that happens, it reverts to a mode which basically leaves you with manually trimming the airplane for your pitch control. Now, did I have that right? Is that what you gathered from the article?
Well, I got that they had at one point got both computers failed. And I'd never actually worked out how the aircraft got into mechanical mode.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. It was just like they were doing the same thing over and over and over again. But that one time they forgot to do it, and then I guess again the system, they did what you just described, doing the touch and go and stopping the trim from going to zero because we were going to do another takeoff on this touch and go, and then the first one, the number one, is already it's shut itself down. And now the second one goes, which is now doing is in control of everything, goes, oh, okay, there's a fault. And so that one shuts down too. So now they have just basically forced the whole system going into this manual mode.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me point out that normally you wouldn't get any flight computer faults doing touch and goes. That is not normal.
Oh, so I got from it that it was something that would happen, and then
I think it was a recurring fault on this aircraft, but it wasn't something that should normally have happened. And the only reason they allowed themselves to continually reset the fault was because there wasn't anything in those days, anything specific in the aircraft operating manual telling them that they could only reset it twice or three times, as is often the case with resetting a circuit breaker. Once you've done it a couple of times, they say, no, don't do it anymore. But they I think, for me, this was a matter of airmanship. You don't continually reset flight control computers because the fault that's continually recurring isn't going away. The fault is continually being flagged. You have a fault. The fact that you're resetting the computer means that it's just going back to square one again. The fault's recurring. The computer's going offline. The fault is still there somewhere in the system. Anyway, you're right. They come down and they're on the ground. They've got a double ELAC failure, ELAC 1 and 2. And when it comes to retrimming and put the power up and pulling the stick back to go again, I think the first officer's flying it. He pulls back and he gets no response, and this is because both flight control computers are now off. Now
I think I misstated something. I'm sorry.
That's right.
By saying that because the ELAC 1 and ELAC 2 computers weren't operating, that at that point it shifted to completely manual trim control for pitch, but there's more to the story, which I think you're about to talk about. There was some kind of a system another computer. There's like 4 computers that have to fail for this thing to go into that mode where you're manually operating a trim surface or a trim switch or whatever it is to control the pitch of the airplane. And this thing is some kind of a computer that controls the rudder and stabilizer or something in the back, and apparently
I'm not certain what happens next, Jeff, so if you know, off you go.
From what I remember, it's been a little over a week since I've read this, but I think that because this was a computer, it's a flying computer, they got this airplane from another company, and it hadn't been on property for a long time. But anyway, the people that were maintaining this, and they're not sure what company did this, at what point it happened in its history, but the investigators found that there was like a what do they call this thing? Like a servo, a plunger. Let's see, what is it called?
It's just a micro switch, isn't it?
It's something that actually impinges upon some micro switches.
Yeah.
And so, and the Airbus requires a certain oil to lubricate this. I'm trying to look for the exact term for this thing, but it's like a.
This is an awfully long document. Forgive us for not having this on the tip of our tongue, but it's pages worth we're going through.
It is. And we'll have a link to this in the show notes, and people can read the whole thing. I think it's fascinating, but basically, a mechanic, used the wrong lubricant on this, and So because it was a higher viscosity than was called for, and so it basically meant that this part wasn't moving smoothly in the like it was like a piston in a cylinder. It wasn't moving properly. It was kind of catching up. It wasn't going all the way to a full extent to actually depress like 2 or 3 different micro switches, and because of that, that computer goes, oh well, this is not working. So you got the ELAC computers, both of them now are shut down, and this thing is supposed to take over, but now it's going, well, this is not working either. Anyway, basically you're seeing that just the trail of breadcrumbs or the tiny little holes in the slices of Swiss cheese are all aligning perfectly where the wrong oil was used, and this piston wasn't activating the micro switches, and then that computer turned off, and then basically they found themselves in a world of hurt because when the student pilot at the controls at the time went to rotate on this touch and go, nothing happened. He says, rotate, like, what are you doing? And he says, I'm rotating, I'm pulling back as hard as I can, nothing's happening. And then the instructor pilot takes over and same thing, realizes that he's got to take over. I think that just the power coming up was enough to get barely the airplane heading upward again, skyward again, because there was not enough room to stop or abort the takeoff from that point, because they would have been off the end of the runway. Of course, if they'd known what was about to happen, they may have decided that would have been better, but they had no idea what was happening with the airplane. It was just they knew they couldn't control it.
The coincidence was that the guy, the first officer, because he's obviously in training, he bounced the aircraft for a very short period, a little over a second. And that was just sufficient for some of the logic to turn, but not all of it. But effectively, they've ended up with 2 computers off. They didn't reset one. One's failed. The Sec 1 should have taken over, but that went down when this piston failed to move. And Sec 2 had already shut down for the same reason, is the explanation. This logic is out with my experience, because I don't think this could have happened on our aircraft. But basically...
But who could imagine that something like this would happen? I mean, the engineers designing this thing, well, there's no way this is possibly going to happen when you lose all these different computers at the same time.
So they end up in the situation with all 4 computers that are capable of controlling the elevator and the horizontal stabilizer have now failed, and the elevator moves to its sort of fail-safe position, which is neutral. It's designed to be moved to a flat position so that it provides no input. And at that point, that's when the trainee pilot tries to pull back on his stick and climb away, but nothing happens. So a pair of red warnings appear on the screen at this point, and this is something that you get in the simulator and you go, oh my God, flight control left and right elevator fault comes up, and that is red, and the bells will go off. And up comes a message saying, use manual pitch trim only, and you get a loud continuous chime, because this is about as severe an emergency as you can get with the flight controls. What that means is your only pitch control is to use the trim wheel now. Both elevators are no longer operating. So apparently, unaware of the nature of the problem, the instructor announced that he has control, attempts to pull back with a side stick, didn't get any response. The aircraft begins to climb. They've used the word plane, I hate that. But it's just basically the effect of the natural position of the tailplane and their speed and the power of the engines getting them airborne. And from then on, they're in about the worst situation you can be in an Airbus. You're flying the aircraft using just one form of mechanical backup to your tailplane. It's using the trim wheel basically to fly the aircraft in pitch. I think they had roll control, but that was it.
I think so too. Yeah.
But of course, every time you reduce power, the aircraft's going to pitch. You've got to compensate. Every time you put power on, the airplane's going to pitch up. You've got to compensate. And it really is a course control. It's very hard. From that point onwards, having got them partly being responsible for getting them into this situation, the trainer does a very good job of taking it downwind. First, they've got to touch the ground, haven't they? Because they've got to wreck both engines. I forgot that bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember exactly where that was in the sequence, but yeah. Tell us about that. That's a bad thing.
Well,
you kind of hurt the engines.
he briefly considered aborting, and he reduced power, which, of course, makes, when you don't have that pitch-up force from the engines, the aircraft's going to pitch down. And as it did, he realized that he didn't have enough runway left. But the gear is already traveling. And when he decides to change his mind and applies full power, and actually it's that point he selects the gear up, it takes too long for the airplane to rotate, and they touch on the runway with no gear, just on the engines. And of course, they're dragging these engines along the ground. They're wrecking the engines as they're skidding along the ground on the engines. But eventually, they get enough power and the airplane rotates and gets off. It says normally the loss of lift triggered by retracting flaps is countered by the fact that the aircraft is nose up. But in this case, with the aircraft flying almost level, the retraction of the flaps in combination with the brief reduction in thrust was sufficient to put the aircraft into a descent. So they effectively put the aircraft in a go-around situation, but taken power off and then belatedly decided to put it back on. They touched the the engines on the runway, which wrecks the engines sufficient to eventually cause them to fail, but they're still making enough power for them to climb away. In this awful situation, they climb away, turn downwind. I don't think what happens next is quite a miracle of flying, actually. The aircraft was initially at a very steep climb. The instructor's still trying to fly the airplane using the stick, but actually, he's got all these warnings telling him that only the trim wheels
doesn't work.
Going to work. Exactly right. The flaps have jammed. Number 2 engine has actually caught fire. He's got manual pitch trim only, and it's the safety pilots that's shouting that at the instructor. And the instructor now starts to move the trim wheel and get the aircraft back under control. They end up in a bit of a PIO, a big oscillation. So they're going from 7,200 feet a minute dive with the sink rate, terrain, whoop, whoop, pull up going off, and then cranking it into a climb. They hit about 2.4 Gs as they try and get their airplane going up. Managed to get the airplane stabilized and get downwind using a combination of trim, roll inputs, and engine thrust. With both engines now on fire, the safety pilot says, they put out a mayday, and they've got flaps locked. They're in no elevators. They put it this way: the messages on the ECAM warning panel will just be out of view. There'll be so many of them.
Yeah, so you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly right. And they're oscillating their way kind of downwind. They managed to get the airplane on a 180-degree turn to return to the runway, put out a mayday, basically from that point they do a remarkable job of getting the airplane pointing at the runway. But I think the engines give up. They've been quite badly damaged, and they hit the ground short of the runway. If I'm in the undershoot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it was an undershoot. Yep.
Yeah. And they survive, which is pretty remarkable. So there really was for them a nasty combination of mechanical failure through an engineering fault, Mechanical failures that were causing their computers to drop offline. A really nasty and unexpected coincidence that killed all 4 flight control computers at the same time, that led them to this. Plus then, the airplane won't fly. Will it fly? Shall we abort? Let's lift the gear. Oh, now I can't abort. Damaging both engines, and I'm going to fly away. It kind of I suspect it was bedlam on the flight deck.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to the point I originally made. You don't fly around in a fly-by-wire aircraft that is controlled entirely by flight control computers, with computers that are continually indicating faults. Every time you do a touch and go, a fault is appearing. You don't do that. You go once, perhaps twice. Now, I'm putting this on the ground and I'm getting this looked at, because this does not happen on an Airbus.
But what about all the training requirements, Nick? You got to get those training requirements.
Yeah, I know. But proof of the pudding. Having said that, they managed to survive. So,
and other than that,
it was a good day.
It was no big deal, really.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Remarkable job of.
I've done a terrible
skills.
job of explaining that. I wish I had more knowledge of this system.
It's not easy at all. It's a lot of information in there, and again, I'll point everybody to go look at this article written by Colonel Sanders. No, that's not right. Admiral something in medium.com. We'll have the link. Admiral Cloudberg.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to me that, that this, had I guess, well, there are so many things that had it been done another way, then they would never have been in this situation. But the final straw to me is that the wrong viscosity oil used to lubricate this little piston that, basically said, nope, and shut down those other computers. It's like, oh, wow.
When you think about it, using the wrong oil is like putting glue in there instead of a lubricant, because viscosity of oil can be really very different.
Yeah. So, and if it had been used in normal operation, none of this stuff would have happened. It's just that, as you said, Nick, in this training environment and doing these really not probably something that Airbus ever expected anybody to do with their computers. It just wasn't the normal ops for this airplane to do this kind of thing. Now you wonder why we do all our stuff in the simulator, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
This won't happen. Well, I am sorry that this took so long, but there was no really quick way to do it. There's a lot of meat to this article, and I think to me it was fascinating, and I think Nick would agree that this is just good reading, and it really helped me. Not being I've never been qualified to fly an Airbus, and so I don't know all these flight computer stuff. And honestly, I was kind of surprised because I didn't realize that there was that mechanical back. I think you have mentioned it in the past, Nick, that there is a mechanical pitch thing that actually has cables that go back there, and so if you lose all your electricity, you still have some.
Yeah, in the early Airbuses, there was rudders and the mechanical pitch for the tailplane.
Right.
Now that has been superseded now by a second electronic backup, which does the effect. It has the effect of being a mechanical backup, but it's not actually made of rods and pulleys anymore. It's has its own logic, its own power, and its own separate system.
So yeah, fascinating stuff, and really a complex airplane, and amazing the engineering that went into it. Really must be said. And there we go. Alan, thank you very much.
I'm not going to thank him. That was really hard, and I didn't do a very good job.
Okay, I'm being sarcastic. Alan, thanks a lot for that.
Nick, for what it's
Yeah.
worth, I think you did a fantastic job. So I was glad just to sit here and listen to it as I snuck back into the show.
I don't think I got it even close to right. So if there's anyone out there who wants to write a short summary of it, then please go ahead.
If you are the Miami
but just
Rick
don't
of
send
Airbus.
it to us.
Yeah. Miami Rick, if he were here, I'm sure that he would be able to explain it all.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, he doesn't. He doesn't fly the Airbus.
Well, he
Anywho.
will one day.
Yeah, it's kind of looking that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Plain tale. Yeah, we're past time. Sorry. It is now time for this week's installment of the best part of the show, which is the Old Pilot's Plain Tales. And this week's episode is entitled we're going along with this alphabet theme. Last week was A to L, right? No, A to J, aviation. And this week's is the K to R of aviation. And here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. The K to R of aviation. After last week's tale, here are a few more letters of the alphabet to ponder on. K is for kilo. Not any old kilo, but the ones we dialed into our ejector seats. In the early days of Martin Baker seats, the sole method of propulsion was a solid propellant charge inside an expanding telescopic tube attached to the seat that forced it out of the cockpit. This provided enough clearance to survive an ejection from an aircraft travelling forward at a reasonable speed, but at low speed and altitude ejection often failed because the parachute just couldn't inflate fast enough. Fitting a larger charge risked permanent back injury, which were already common enough, so the additional height needed for full parachute deployment was achieved by the addition of a rocket pack. The rocket propellant was fitted into a series of tubes under the seat pan, fired by a lanyard that pulled out a sear pin once the seat was well out of the cockpit, and exhausted through a pair of rocket nozzles to boost the seat clear. Even this two-stage thrust system gave the pilot an acceleration of 12 to 14 Gs. In the version of the new rocket-powered seat in the F-4 Phantom, it was thought that the angle of the nozzles was important to ensure the best trajectory and also make sure the thrust line ran through the centre of gravity. Therefore, on climbing in, we had to remember to dial in our weight in full flying kit into the rocket pack pitch control unit. Embarrassingly, my stature plus my extra heavy flying gear slightly exceeded the maximum setting, but I decided that being the fine company that Martin Baker is, they would have built into their calculations some extra fat to account for my extra fat. In future seats, it was discovered that the back seat occupying navigational consultants were either lying about their weight, a common conceit, or forgetting to dial in their kilos, which had a negative effect on ejection. As a result, this requirement was designed out of future seats. L is for Lepus. The Lepus flare was a night illumination flare of several million candle power that could be dropped by an attacking aircraft to render the ground below visible for ground attack. Its duration could be set on the ground, and once deployed it would descend slowly on a parachute, giving off a brilliant yellow-tinged light. Those who had the rare pleasure of diving into this swinging globe of illumination could be affected by a variety of forms of disorientation, not ideal when hurling your little pink body at the ground. Night vision was, of course, destroyed, whilst the swaying line between light and dark could give false horizons. It was frequently described as flying inside a goldfish bowl. A Royal Navy pilot describes approaching their carrier to attack targets being towed behind. After finding the ship on radar and dropping the flares, they dived onto a large ocean cruise liner. They hoped that the passengers' eyes would have been partly blinded by the brilliant flares and might never see the formation of armed phantoms barreling down on them. The same pilot describes an F-4 having problems landing on Ark Royal at night and diverting to Naples short of fuel. On arriving, they discovered that, whilst a single controller remained in the tower, the airfield was closed. Apparently, the runway was clear, but the lights were unavailable. With little fuel left, the crew said no problem, and they tossed a Lepus flare into the overhead and landed safely in a blaze of light, if not glory. M is for money. As a few unfortunate captains know, the monetary status of your airline is vitally important when away from base. Should the rumours of the imminent collapse of your outfit spread, you are quite likely to be refused such essentials as fuel for your return journey. If your airline has unpaid bills, it's also quite likely that you will return to your mighty steed to find it surrounded by bulldozers and being held hostage until accounts are settled. As a consequence, most companies give their captains credit cards to cover unexpected payments, and in some cases they have set off with briefcases full of banknotes to cover expenses in cash. Should the sad moment arrive when an airline finally goes bust, the crew might be lucky enough to find out before anybody else. Stories have been told of the captain quietly waking their crew and creeping out of the hotel in the dead of night before being held personally liable for the bill. After walking a discreet distance, taxis were summoned, and once at the airport they were faced with the difficult task of getting their aircraft refueled, planning their return trip, and finally getting airborne before the news broke. Some actually made it. Not every money story involves bankruptcy. Some airlines regularly gave their captains pockets full of cash just to bribe their way around the world. The Virgin flight, the first on a new route through Russia, was once forced to land at Moscow because the clearances agreed at government level hadn't quite filtered down to the air traffic controllers. The captain was faced with an enormous bill for landing fees and fuel so that he could return to London. Credit cards were refused, and he resorted to having a whip round amongst the passengers until enough cash could be found to allow them to escape. It says something about the passengers that they had enough pocket change to cover the sizable demand. N is for N number. Back in the day, there was no real way to identify one aircraft from another, a fact that frustrated aircraft spotters the world round. Arguments were already in full flood when, in 1913, the first passenger-carrying airline was started with the catchy name St. Petersburg-Tampa Airboat Line, about who owned the air above a territory. The viewpoints wavered between either no state being able to claim sovereignty to every state having the right to do so. It was at the Paris Convention of 1919 that such matters were settled, and at the same time countries were allocated a unique first letter, followed after a hyphen by a combination of 4 other letters or numbers to be used to register their aircraft and become the aircraft's radio call sign. Initially, only 5 nations were given such letters, and the rest of the world were lumped in together and had to share. Each country would use a national aviation authority to issue a unique registration which was recorded in a national register and on a legal certificate of registration. During the conference, each country was given a few letters, and for its aircraft, Great Britain chose G, and the United States of America chose N. They also had K and W, but since these letters were already being used by various radio stations, and the Navy had used N since 1909, the US government decided that it would reserve N for itself. The choice was not particularly popular, and the journal Aviation wanted W in honour of the Wright brothers. However, by 1927, the air commerce regulations required N for international flights, and eventually everyone had to toe the line. The US also chose to use numbers after the N, which followed a trend common before the N was required, when C was used for commercial aircraft, S for state, and P for private. After adopting the N, airworthiness categories followed, which were C for standard, R for restricted, and X for experimental, and later on L for limited. This remained in force until 1948, when only the N was required. Registrations can be reused after an aircraft is demolished by a careless driver or honourably retired. For example, November 3794 November is used by a Mooney M20. The registration was previously allocated to the aircraft in which Buddy Holly died. I wonder if, on a quiet flight, they ever hear the crickets. O is for orifice, specifically the one belonging to Miss Tilly. Miss Beatrice Schilling, known as Tilly, was a young female engineer working for the Royal Aircraft Establishment at RAF Farnborough during the Second World War, who came up with an alarmingly simple modification to prevent the SU carburetors of the Merlin engine from cutting out. If a Spitfire pilot tried to follow an ME-109 with its fuel-injected Daimler-Benz engine into a dive, he couldn't bunt his fighter, he had to roll it inverted and pull. This was because the float-controlled carburetors couldn't supply fuel under negative G, and the Merlin would momentarily cut out, a severe tactical disadvantage. What Miss Tilly devised was a small metal disc that acted as a flow restrictor, made to accommodate just the fuel needed for full power, plus a diaphragm fitted to the float chamber. Miss Schilling travelled around the countryside from one RAF base to another, fitting the restrictors, and although it was officially named the RAE restrictor, the device was immensely popular with fighter pilots who gave it the suitably risque name Miss Tilly's Orifice. P is for pee. Peeing on an airliner, no, not actually on the, never mind, is not usually a task that one looks forward to, although sometimes just getting away from your travelling companion for a few moments of private contemplation can be a blessed relief in itself. There is always the question of whether it's worth taking off your complimentary socks and putting on your shoes to avoid stepping into someone else's leakage on the toilet floor, and then waking up your fellow passengers to get to the aisle. Modern facilities are pretty tight for space, but in some cases so tight there isn't even enough room to turn around. So, gents, you might need to decide which way to face before going to the gents. Ladies, I'm guessing, will usually reverse in. In most modern airliners, flushing is assisted by a vacuum pump that removes your deposit at something approaching Mach 1. And don't worry, getting stuck on the seat after a flush is an urban myth. Having said that, have you ever seen the trick of unrolling an entire toilet roll down the aircraft aisle whilst getting willing passengers to support it on their flat palms? One end is then put into the toilet bowl and flushed. The speed with which 110 feet over 33 meters of toilet tissue disappearing down the loo is cause for much hilarity. One thing that often causes comment is why, when smoking is banned on a flight, is there an ashtray in the toilet? There have been many instances of fires in toilet waste paper bins caused by burning cigarettes, one of which brought down Varig Flight 820. In a case in 2015, the perpetrator on a Monarch A321 was caught and jailed for over 9 years. Because of the danger, toilets are fitted with smoke alarms, bin extinguishers, and, under FAA regulations, an ashtray. In 2011, a Jazz flight from Fredericton to Toronto couldn't depart because the ashtray was missing. Instead, they had to fly the aircraft to Halifax without passengers just to have a new one fitted. Q is for the Queen's Flight. Originally the King's Flight, the Queen's Flight provides air transport for the British royal family and the government of the United Kingdom. Unlike the glitzy aircraft used to transport the President of the United States of America, the Queen's Flight has traditionally been a modest affair, until the recent arrival, that is, of the RAF's VIP A330 Voyager, adorned by a snazzy Union flag paint job. The first member of this exclusive club pitched up in 1928, and it was a Westland Wapiti, shortly followed by a de Havilland Dragon Rapide. The Envoy 3 they had was replaced in the war by a Lockheed Hudson and de Havilland Flamingo. When peace returned, a long list of types came and went, including the Viking, York, Heron, Devon, Whirlwind, Wessex, Dakota, Chipmunk, Bassett, Andover, BAE 146, and, as mentioned, the A330 Voyager. Other aircraft have been pressed into service as royal transport, such as the Comet, the VC-10, and, of course, Concorde. What isn't as well known is that whenever a royal flight trundled around the United Kingdom, it flew in purple airspace. This specifically designated airspace was a corridor or terminal area that was provided solely for the royal flight, notified by NOTAM and active 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after the aircraft passed. There was a special cell in the Tower of London for anyone foolish enough to enter it when active. The use of purple airspace was quietly dropped after 9/11, since it rather advertised the presence of a high-value target. R is for RR. There are a few aircraft engine manufacturers around, but few with the heritage of the ones built by Mr. Charles Rolls and Mr. Henry Royce. Mr. Rolls met Mr. Royce in 1904, when Rolls, an avid promoter of and dealer in automobiles, agreed to enter a partnership to build and sell the finest cars in the world. Success followed, with Rolls putting much effort into publicising the quietness and smoothness of the Rolls-Royce. A keen aviator, Rolls made over 170 balloon ascents, even winning a Gordon Bennett Gold Medal for the longest single flight time. By 1907, he was increasingly interested in aircraft, and the next year he flew with Wilbur Wright before buying a Wright Flyer for himself. He became the second person licensed to fly in Britain and made the first non-stop double crossing of the English Channel. Sadly, he also became the first Briton to be killed in a powered aircraft accident when the tail of his flyer broke off during a flying display in 1910. Royce kept the company name the same and, at the request of the government, began building aero engines in 1915. Their very first engine, the Rolls-Royce Eagle, powered the first ever non-stop crossing of the Atlantic by Alcock and Brown in their Vickers Vimy. The Rolls-Royce continued to produce fine motor cars and engines which powered some of the most successful aircraft of the Second World War, such as the Spitfire, Mustang, Hurricane, Lancaster, Mosquito, etc. same time, the company was asked to supply Britain's first jet engines, 6 of Whittle's WR1. This opened the door for them to produce generations of jet engines, such as the Rolls-Royce Olympus that powered the Vulcan and Concorde, the Avon, Conway, Spey, Pegasus, Adur, RB211 Trent and such. Rolls-Royce remains a world-famous manufacturer of aircraft engines and fine motor cars, each adorned with their famous double R.
I love these. Wow, there's a lot of research that goes into this stuff.
Yeah, these are not, it's just not just like one story. It's multiple stories all in one plain tale.
It gives me a chance to clear out a few little stories I've got hanging around.
Well, I was listening to this and I'm thinking, I have a question or comment about this, and then, I have a question or comment about. I should have written it down. Now I can only remember the last things you were telling me about. But I never knew the first names of Rolls and Royce. It's never occurred to me that.
You won't meet either of them anymore, so don't worry about it.
Well, okay, I don't have to worry about it. There's something in there that I was really astonished by, and I just don't recall what it is now. Darn, I guess I'll have to listen again. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I have to listen to it lots of times, and I tell you, eventually you'll get bored of it.
I will do it again for sure, at least one more time, because the images that go along with the chapter markers in our audio only podcast in your audio playing apps, I'll have to put them right in the right place, and so
Absolutely.
that gives me another chance to listen to it over again. And honestly, there are times when I kind of go off and do something and I don't hear the whole thing, but I know for sure that I'll get to listen to it in its entirety when I do the editing. So another great job, Nick.
Thank you very much. One more to come, and then we're on to something different, I hope.
Okay. I guess next
Numbers?
one will be numbers.
It's an awful lot of numbers.
I remember now what I was going to ask you or say, not ask, but just comment about is I thought it was fascinating, the whole thing about N numbers and, G numbers and how that all came about.
Absolutely. You guys had numbers. We start with letters. I don't know quite why, but it's something I can't find out. But the FAA has a good little historical section on their website that reveals a lot of facts about that.
Well, it's just like our postal codes are like, we see yours and go, what? And then you probably look at us and like, how simple that is. Just,
it's easy.
A few numbers.
Yeah, exactly. The one that amused me was that you could have had W, which actually I think would have been nice for Wright, but would have been an awful letter to have as a call sign.
Oh yeah,
having to say whiskey all the time.
Yeah, right.
Whiskey, November. I don't know. They're both. November's got more syllables.
Yeah.
W. All right. Yeah, we don't have a lot of time left. About 15 minutes remaining, and so, I'm looking through. We have a bunch of feedback, and I can't tell you how happy Liz is. She has a great big grin on her face because she's not going to worry at all about having any feedback for the next show. We're going to have so much feedback we won't know what to do with it all, which is good. It's a good thing. By the way, if you want to send in feedback at airlinepilotguy.com. So Jim, just a navigator. I don't know if Jim is with us or not. Oh, he is. And let's see. I'm looking at his. He's got some audio feedback for us, which is really interesting. And Landon sent in some really interesting audio feedback as well, along with a reference to a YouTube video. But that can wait. I think we'll have a fun discussion with that. There was one that I thought I could do really quickly. Well, I'll quickly say that Kevin, number 6, sent us a reference or a URL to an article about the fall of the Mad Dog from simpleflying.com. And I had nothing to do with it, just in case you're wondering. But a really great article about the Mad Dog, the MD-88 and MD-90s, and the handful of airlines that flew them. Acme was one of them.
Lovely picture, by the way. That first picture of it. It's such a sleek airplane, really, isn't it?
It really is, and had such a high deck angle when it initially took off in the initial climb. And it's a kind of a majestic.
Those wings are a long way back.
Way back. Yeah. Oh, hey, let me do this. I definitely want to play this little quick. Actually, it was a video, but it's really audio. And Rob from the UK sent this in. He says, "Loving the podcast." 7. Sorry. I recently heard this short 20-second clip of Comedy Gold ATC with a British Airways flight. This is really, really good. So let's play that quickly here.
Seabird 116 Heavy, requesting push and start.
Seabird 116 Heavy, push back on Alpha, approved.
Push back on Alpha approved. Seabird 116, which way would you like us to face?
Face the front, sir. If you're flying looking at the passengers, they get very concerned.
What a smart aleck.
That sounds like doesn't that sound like a Kennedy controller?
I was going to say, was that JFK?
Yep.
It sounds
no help whatsoever.
Well, he's retired, but I think his legacy lives on in controllers.
But I think that may have been an older one anyway. So who knows? But
I think at that point you say to the truck driver, "Do you know which way we're supposed to face?" Yeah, I know, sir. Okay.
Yeah, just push us the way you normally do.
Yeah.
I love that though. Just don't face the passengers. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and play the audio from Jim, and then we'll wrap it up and hit these as hard as we can next week. So let me get back over here. Number 5. I've recorded audio feedback for episodes 465 and 466. It's a story of my good friend who had his parachute stream after ejecting from an F4. So let's, without further ado, play some audio feedback from Jim, and he calls himself Just a Navigator. So take it away, Jim Howard.
Hello, Captain Jeff and Captain Nick and the rest of the cockpit crew. This is Jim in Texas, and I'm going to give you some feedback on episodes 466 and 465. 465, the plane tail was about falling from airplanes, and 466 had a lot of discussion of ejection seat malfunctions. I had a friend who did both, and I got his permission to tell you this story. I'll call my friend Bones, not his real call sign, but he's a tall, skinny, bony guy, so it seems appropriate. You have to go back to November 12, 1974, which was my first day to report in to Mather Air Force Base for Just a Navigator School. I'm in an in-processing line, and a lieutenant a couple of slots ahead of me gets in an argument with the dog tag machine about whether hedonism was a religion. So I really didn't think that much about it until about 2.5 or 3 years later. I'm at this new lieutenant in the 67th Tactical Fighter Squadron at Kadena flying the F-4C Weasel. We had a mobility squadron, which meant we were supposed to be able to pack up our bags and go anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. So we had a mobility out-processing line, basically, where they checked all our paperwork and our wheels and shots and all of that stuff. They did have a dog tag machine in there, and my friend Bones and I are going through the line, and Bones tells the dog tag guy, "I want to change my religion to hedonist." And I started laughing. I said, "So you're that guy all those years in Mather." And he was. And in PACAF, hedonism was pretty much the wing religion, at least among the flying crews. So anyway, fast forward about, 5 or 6 years, and I'm in a headquarters slot, and Bones is an instructor EWO at George Air Force Base in the F-4G. We get a message that an F-4G has crashed at George Air Force Base. So we were all pretty upset about that. Most of us in the ops section had friends there. I decided, after talking to some senior officers to make sure it was okay, that I could call the squadron and ask for one of my friends and see if we could find out kind of any details, because all we knew was an airplane had crashed. So it's kind of a faux pas to do this, to call a squadron right after an accident and ask, hey, I'm Joe Bagadonas, what happened? But I did it anyway. And I called his squadron and I asked for Bones. And he said, well, I can't tell you about Bones because he was beat up pretty bad in this accident, and that's really all we know is what the duty officer told me. So that was pretty upsetting. To make a long story short, here's what happened. He and his squadron commander were flying the F-4G over Cuddyback Range, which is between what's now the Victorville Logistics Airport, which is then George Air Force Base, and Edwards. So they're on the Cuddyback Range, and stuff starts to go wrong. They get a master caution light, and they get some, quote, other flickering lights, and then the utility hydraulic system fails. The utility hydraulic system in a Phantom powers the landing gear, flaps, anti-skid, and I think nose gear steering. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I think that's right, among some other things. So they decide at that point to go to Edwards. They're about equidistance from Edwards and George. George is now the Victorville Logistics Airport, which I'm sure Captain Rick has flown into. Anyway, so they're heading for Edwards. They're going to land on the Space Shuttle runway. And then the fuel gauges go to zero. Then the throttles freeze. So they still think they can land because the runway there is 100 miles long or something. So they're lining up for a final, and they have to blow the gear down with compressed nitrogen because the utility can't lower. So they blow the gear and flaps down. Then they notice some smoke in the cockpit. At that point, Bones rotates the command selector valve. Now, he says this was in the checklist for smoke in the cockpit, but I didn't see it in my copy. Let me explain what that is. In the back seat, there's a yellow T-handle in the upper left-hand corner of the back cockpit. If that handle is vertical, the command selector is closed. Should the EWO initiate ejection, then with the handle closed, he goes out. The pilot can go ahead and fly home, and I guess the backseater would have to buy a round at the club that night. I always preferred to fly it that way because I just wanted to if I wanted to step out of the airplane, I didn't want to necessarily take the pilot with me if he wants to be a hero. But it was up to the pilot. I never argued with him or anything. Some of them wanted it open, some of them wanted it closed. In this case, the squadron commander flying with Bones had asked him to leave it closed, but Bones rotated it anyway. He was that kind of guy. He was a lot more assertive nav than me. I mean, and he's just a real assertive person about everything, whether you're ordering McDonald's or flying an airplane. So anyway, he says it's in the checklist. I'm not sure about that, but whatever reason, he rotates the command selector valve. At that point, he notices more smoke. The airplane begins to roll, and he sees flames in the rearview mirror. So Bones initiates ejection. The accident board later found that the probable cause was a hydraulic line had cracked and was spraying hydraulic fluid into an area under the rear cockpit, creating a flammable combination of oil and air and hotness, which caused the fire and explosion. The pilot later said that at that point the flight controls had frozen also, but psychologically the pilot wanted to save the airplane and was fighting the flight controls that wouldn't move when Craig ejected them. So Craig goes out, followed a tenth of a second, or excuse me, about a half a second later by the front seaters. They both go out as the airplane snap rolls. The pilot gets a normal chute, goes down. I've talked to the eyewitnesses. He just gets a normal chute, goes down in the desert, everything's fine, but Bones goes out tumbling. And as the seat separates, it punches a big hole through the parachute and streamers it. So Craig is falling. He's got a drogue chute, basically, not even a drogue chute. He's got a streamer like we used to have on Estes bottle rockets when I was a kid, but no parachute. So his last words before he impacts are, "This will be the best parachute landing fall in history." And I guess it was because he survived. His back was broken in a couple of places. He was really beat up bad. I won't go into the details. He was very disappointed in the way the Air Force handled that. He got the feeling they kind of wanted to cover it up. But anyway, he did wound up in a civilian hospital, got some operations that helped, but he's been in pain from that day to this. He stayed at Victorville for a year, and I didn't know this until I talked to him. He flew one more time in the F4. He really wanted to get back in the cockpit, so he asked to fly with a good friend of a pilot who's a good friend of both of us. And they went up and they flew a tanker first. And Craig claims to have flown the tanker. He was that kind of EWO, and I know some guys did. I never wanted to fly the tanker, but fly the refueling. But he did. He says, and who am I to say he didn't? Then they did some G prep maneuvers, which is basically where you fly in circles and gradually increase the Gs. He got to about 3 Gs and started crying in pain. He said, "Oh, knock it off. Let's go back. I can't be in this airplane." So he went back, landed, wound up in Compass Call, which is an EC-130 that has a special mission. It has in the back crew. They have an EWO in charge of the mission, and they have a bunch of technicians and spooky, scary people back there, and they fly near bad guys and do whatever it is they do. I've actually had a couple of Compass Call missions, but I don't want to have to kill you guys, so I can't tell you any more than that. Craig wound up in a black program for his last couple of years in the service. He made lieutenant colonel, which he certainly deserved because he was such a high-energy guy. But anyway, I've tried for years, and he talks a lot. He loves to talk, but I can't get him to tell me what his black program was. All he could tell me was they didn't let him actually meet the aliens. Bones is still very active. He and I have gone on a couple of long motorcycle trips together on our sport touring motorcycles, and he's currently general contractor for a custom house that he designed himself, that he's building himself. And I asked him once, how do you have all this energy? I know you're in pain all the time. He says, well, VA sends me about a gallon of heroin every month, and that's what keeps me going. So, maybe heroin has its place in the world. I don't know. Never give up. I have a lot of admiration for Craig as somebody who's really stuck it out after a really hard slap on the face by fate. So it is possible to fall out of an airplane and crawl away from it anyway. This is Jim in Texas. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Crazy story.
That Craig sounds like quite the character. And
yeah,
to survive
it's a remarkable
with just a
story of
streamer?
survival.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone can gather what that means, streamer. So obviously if you have a big hole through your parachute, it's not doing its function of slowing you down very effectively. There's different ways you can get a streamer if your parachute doesn't inflate all the way. But basically high speed malfunction. So you're not getting slowed down enough to land gently back to the earth. So he talked about that parachute landing fall, which is something that anyone who's going to be potentially using a parachute practices, where you bring your feet and knees and everything together and arms by your side, and you want to hit the ground and roll safely as you touch down. But yeah, moving that fast, not a easy thing to do or execute. So.
And you'd think it would be feel like a feather when you do the parachute landing fall.
No,
it's like
no.
jumping off a 10-foot wall or something like that. Maybe
yeah.
not.
I mean, it depends on how fast you're still going, to be honest. Yeah, but that's a crazy story.
We did the parachute landing fall training in the Air Force, and we had the old-fashioned round parachutes,
round
so
canopies.
they don't really, round canopies, and you don't really have any control hardly of where you're going to put it down, and I guess the velocity coming down is a lot higher than
it's a little bit more
parachute
fixed.
you're used to using.
Yeah, you can't just completely arrest your descent and touch down on your tiptoes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
No, you're plummeting like a brick. You
well,
just,
and then take
you just
that
know
and put a big hole through it, and imagine what that's.
Well, yeah, you're just pretty
speed.
sure which part of you is going to hit the ground first. That's about all it does.
Yeah. Well, glad to hear he's still.
At first, I was
staying
thinking
active.
Absolutely.
I was thinking that he was still in the seat when but I guess
he
had separated himself from the seat at that point. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that must have been really nasty. But great decision to set the command eject on. So I think that was a damn good thing. Double utilities failure, you are quite right. It does remove the nose steering, including air-to-air refueling probe, anti-skid, the ARI, auxiliary air doors, arrestor hook, retraction flaps, hydraulic fuel transfer pumps, landing gear, nose steering, pneumatic air compressor, radar, antenna drive, the ramps, rudder power control, speed brakes, stab augs, roll, and your utility ailerons and spoilers, variable bypass valve, wheel brakes, and the wing fold. Actually, I'd forgotten the Phantom has 4 hydraulic systems. 2 utilities, and 2 for the powered controls. So it was actually pretty safe. But of course, once the damn stuff catches a light,
Yeah,
it's
good luck.
yeah,
Oh, by
good
the
luck
way,
with that. Exactly.
all that stuff that he was just spewing out, he was not reading that. That was all from his memory.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely very good. Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm amazed.
I might point out that our Phantoms didn't have command eject for a long time. It was a retrofit we eventually got. And we actually had a number of navigators who abandoned the aircraft and their pilots stayed with it. Generally speaking, we had a lot of guys leave the runway during takeoff. There was a tricksy problem with our nose wheel steering, and guys who come from the Air Force version, who climbed into our ex-Navy version, found that the nose wheel steering was completely different, and they had a tendency to lose control because they just weren't used to it.
Get kind of like a PIO kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly during pairs takeoffs, because ours, the Navy had a weird thing. It wasn't progressive. It was a kind of, it didn't move very much for the first part of the travel, but if you kept pushing the rudder, it became progressively faster and faster until it moved, to about 70 degrees. So it was for maneuverability on the deck, but people just weren't anticipating that. Anyway, a lot of navigators jumped out as they left the run. We had about 3 in one summer. Left a lot of, wheel. Guys would get airborne off the grass because they'd left the runway. It was really quite funny. No one died. It was just rather amusing.
Well, that's the way they used to take off and land, right?
No
On
one
the
took out
grass
any
fields.
taxiway lights or anything.
No. In fact, in one case, the ground was a bit soft, and he was ploughing his way towards this taxiway. The navigator had jumped out, and the only thing that stopped his nose wheel from breaking off was he got the nose wheel off, then his main wheels hit this taxiway, and it bounced him into the air. And he danced on his reheats for a while, and then eventually got flying speed and
whatever
carried
I
on.
meant to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just my fancy takeoff maneuver there.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly
gonna
right.
teach it to y'all later.
Hey, Bob, what did you think of that? Bob? Where are you?
Well, funny you should think that. Bob was the navigator.
I just think I just got to come
Yeah,
up
I
with
know.
a name. Bob.
I know. Lovely guy. Yeah.
Bob was gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye, Bob.
Interesting. Oh well. And Bob's your uncle. Was that right? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah,
phrase?
absolutely.
And Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle. Okay, I was thinking about doing one more, but hey, we're already past our 3-hour point, and so we're going to save it. It was just something that was kind of connected with the His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, or Prince Philip, and yeah, we can save that for next week, and all the other good stuff in there. Lots of good feedback. Thank you, everybody, for sending in all this really interesting feedback, and you're going to get a kick out of all of it. And if you have something clever, or you have a question about something or whatever, please don't hesitate to send it to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. We have this website. It's great. It's called airlinepilotguy.com. And there's a way for you to send in feedback via that, and SpeakPipe, some audio feedback, and yeah, lots of different ways to contact us and send us your feedback. And we are also on social media.
We are indeed. If you like the short form version of social media, head over to Twitter, and we are at APG Crew. You can find our individual Twitter information pinned to the top of that page. If you like more lengthy discussions, maybe Facebook is your preferred social media platform. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Occasionally, I repost Captain Nick's beautiful artwork to our Instagram page, where we are also APG Crew. And if you really want the deep dive on things, head over to Slack, which Hillel is going to tell you about momentarily.
Yes, Slack is the thing that is Hillel's creation. Well, actually, he didn't create it, but he created the APG team, our Slack team. And Hillel, tell us about that.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel, for that. And we also want to say a big thank you, a big round of applause for our producer, director, control room person who talks to me in my ear, Liz.
Thanks for the
Piper
T-shirt,
in
Liz.
Toronto.
Ooh.
Yes, she is awesome and does a heck of a lot of work behind the scenes. Thank you, Liz, for that. And let's see, let me make sure I don't abruptly fade. There we go. That's much better. And until next time, we're hoping that you'll join us again, and wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, buddy. Bye, St. George.
Is he still slaying dragons?
Yep.
Okay.
Hope I didn't forget anything. I know I kind of wrapped it up quickly there, but
I think you got it all. All these salient points, at least.
yeah. I mean,
there's more fluff you could put in if we were running short, but
yeah. But I figured, why take up everybody's time? Just go ahead.
What
and
else
shut
are
it
they
down.
doing? What else are
Shut
they
her
doing?
down. Rejecting possum feedback. Are we? Are we rejecting
I
possum
don't
feedback?
understand that, but that doesn't surprise me.
Well, you know what a possum is, right? It's an animal.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to have some sort of witty comment about possums.
Of course not. I don't have any witty comments in me. Steph, you know me better than that.
I do, but I was prepared to be surprised.
Thanks.
Beach
Just like my
bathing bomber.
Just like my FO.
Uh-huh.
No respect for me whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah.
Kids
really.
these days.
I know. Anyway.
So this is 469.
Oh, he was a lieutenant colonel, or he is a lieutenant colonel in the reserves. And I thought, does that mean I have to call you sir? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. Okay. What was that
like
at the beginning, Liz? What?
Nothing, just looking at the show titles that are being offered up here.
Oh, okay. Get off my dirt at the very beginning. Like instead of get off my lawn, we were talking about
the
lunar,
Martian.
or not the lunar.
Marvin the Martian sitting on his front porch and yelling at the.
Marvin the Martian.
You probably can't use that without some sort of copyright.
I know, but that's so. I mean, that brings back floods back. Remember? Did you guys have that show?
That's
no,
Nick.
No, Marvin the Martian.
Oh,
that was immediately what was in my brain. I was picturing Marvin the Martian with his little ray gun.
No, it was called like My Favorite Martian. Was that the name of the show?
We had My Favorite Martian.
Yeah.
He used to grow antennas out of his head.
Right. Oh, so that's not what you're talking about, Steph.
No, I'm talking about Marvin the Martian.
What's Marvin the Martian?
Marvin the Martian is, help me out, chat room, Looney Tunes? I think Looney Tunes. Laura says
like
Looney
a cartoon
Tunes.
Thing.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I'm not familiar with Marvin the Martian. I thought you were
not
talking
familiar with
that
Marvin the
was
Martian?
Bugs Bunny's
Laura.
bête noire
Laura
on
Davis,
Mars,
do you believe this?
or on the moon.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Marvin the Martian's not even like a... I'm going to send you a picture of Marvin the Martian.
Okay. Share it with us.
I will.
Anything to do with slaying dragons?
Oh, okay.
Easier for me.
Okay.
Slay dragons?
Mode
You
here.
don't have to. I can share it. Just send it to me.
I just sent you the Wikipedia.
Oh, you did?
Link.
I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember this guy. I never knew that was Marvin the Martian. It looks like a Trojan.
Marvin the Martian.
Okay.
Yes, he does look a bit Roman, doesn't he? He's got his Roman helmet on.
Okay, let's see if I can share that with everybody.
Yeah, a bit like a daisy.
Application window. Here we go. Oh, wait, maybe I got to make sure that I'm not sharing something I shouldn't share. Yeah, no, I got to do this.
Just the Wikipedia page, Jeff, not the personal pages.
Right.
Whatever you were looking at during Plain Tales, we don't need to.
No. It was like conversations and messages because he sent it via text, and I'm thinking I don't want to put something
share
in there
text
that
conversation.
share.
I don't think I've said
Like all
anything.
the derogatory things that we say about people in the chat room.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We don't do that, as far as you know. Why am I not being able to? I want to.
I don't know. Should I try it?
Okay. I'm trying to open this in preview.
Well, I'm confused by the possums reference, Carl.
Arnie always talks about possums.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
he's
know.
from Columbus, Mississippi, and we call
Possum
Columbus,
Town?
Mississippi, Possum Town, because they have a lot of possums in Columbus, Mississippi.
Okay.
Apparently.
Why is that a show title?
Well, I have no idea why it would be a show title.
Okay, right, fair enough.
He's just trying
Yeah,
to, put Columbus, Mississippi on the APG map, I think.
Oh, is he?
there's
Oh,
a
okay.
Better way to
There
do
we
that
go.
than Possum Town. There we go.
Marvin the Martian.
I liked him with a ray
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah, he does frequently have one.
But yeah, you should look up. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
He made his first appearance in 1948.
Wow.
So not a new character.
What? Before your time, even, Les?
Oh, way before Nick's. Well, no.
Yeah. It was
when?
before my time.
Mine too.
I know. How old you are.
Let's see. Let's see if we can find My Favorite Martian.
So what? I could have a bomber attacking a beach, dropping naked women. Beach bathing bomber.
What would that title be?
Well, actually, a beach bathing bomber. They wouldn't have to be naked. They could just wear bikinis.
Ditching plane.
Orifices, Rolls-Royce orifices.
I
Get
like-
off my beach. Could have Marvin on the beach with his ray gun saying, "Get off my beach."
I like Get Off My Dirt, like the Mars thing. Get off my dirt.
Get off my
Little
planet.
Whippersnappers.
Okay.
Get off my planet.
Get off my planet.
Yeah. Okay. Get off.
Have him shooting down the helicopter. Ingenuity.
Yep. Yep. I'm good with the drone.
Oh,
Get
you
off
shot- yeah,
my
that's a good
planet.
idea. Application window. Here we go. Here is My Favorite Martian.
Oh yeah, that's totally different than Marvin the Martian.
Ray Walston, you said? Yeah.
Oh, he was the evil doctor in Lost in Space.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah, he did
Mhm.
more than just My Favorite Martian. He did, yeah, a lot of science fiction stuff, I guess.
Typecast.
Royalty-free Martian cartoon, Liz is saying she's found.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Could you give me a link to that, please, Liz?
Bedtime, Nick?
Well, I don't have to do anything till about 11:30. I need to have breakfast and some coffee and then just go down the bowling club. Be there at 12 and I'll be the first man on the green this year.
There you go. I think our weather's going to be not so hot tomorrow. Sounds like thunderstorms
Yeah, the
all
weekend
day.
weather is not good here in the south.
Sunday looks okay. Tomorrow looks blech. So I anticipate getting a lot of work done around the house tomorrow.
We anticipate you getting a lot of work done as well.
Mostly this room. You see.
That is dreadful. No, it doesn't look
Right.
anything like...
Yeah, that doesn't look like a Martian.
Marvin
Let's
the
see.
Martian is there, I see.
Oh, kind
That's
of. He's
another
cute.
one. Oh, there is. Yeah, there's one of him there with a ray gun. I like that. I see a PNG as well. That makes life easy. I don't have to cut him out. Like it. Well done.
Lots of. Apparently, you have to be green to be. A
Oh, I
Martian.
like the one with the Mars flag, where he's just like Mars.
Where?
And like-
Where's one with the Mars flag?
I'll send it to you.
Seymour.
Is it something?
Yeah, go to
that,
Seymour.
Seymour?
Oh, this is a Pinterest one,
Seymour?
which makes it difficult
I know
to
Seymour.
send.
Collection of clip art. I've got one with him with a ray gun out.
Okay.
Where's
I was gonna
the
send you
Mars?
This one. Hold on.
flag?
There it is on the left.
Oh yeah, I see
There.
it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of like that one where he's like, "Get away."
He's a bit pixely.
Well, you know.
What? Pixely, is he?
Yeah.
Are you saying that because of the transparent background? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of jagged.
Yeah.
Well, I trust
yeah,
you'll
it's
find
and it's
suitable.
probably copyrighted anyway. Can't use it.
What, Liz Piper, is that?
What am I missing?
I'm just trying to find images here. That's all. Just trying to find images.
No, we need that Martian cartoon character.
Well, good luck. It's Looney Tunes, so might not.
And then
yeah,
I'll
that's
put.
all copyrighted though. I don't. Think
Oh,
you
I
can
need
use
a
it.
picture of your Jeep as well.
You
Steph.
hear us saying that it's copyrighted and you can't
Fair
use
enough.
it.
If it's on,
They'll drain the coffee fund.
if it's
Yeah.
on a royalty-free thing, I'm good, aren't I?
If
That
Yeah.
first one I sent was royalty free, supposedly.
but it wasn't. It wasn't the one that he wants to use, right?
I've got one from Clip Art Mag.
Yeah, that's
Collection
gonna
of-
cost you. That's gonna cost you.
Is it?
Yeah,
How much?
that's
so, yeah.
that's one that's going to require. You can't. Oh, yeah, Liz, you're in here. What am I talking about? Why am I telling everybody what you're saying? Because you're
Well,
here
there's
and
one.
everybody
There's
can hear
one
what you're
here
saying.
though that you can pay per image. Oh, does that $14, $15? I don't know.
Well, and then that's like a limited use, and
Oh,
you
all right.
might be able to get away with it on a website. For that, I'm not sure. You'd have to look at the fine print. Oh, Columbus, Arnie, best APG show ever? Are you kidding me? What are you
He
drinking
suggested
there?
that title before too.
Oh, that's a title.
We're gonna
Oh,
save that
okay.
for the last one.
Yeah, exactly. Just before Jeff goes in for his dental surgery, in case he doesn't come out of it.
And you never see me again.
Yeah, that's a
Oh, I
good
missed
idea.
what was happening with that. You'll have to fill me in. I saw it in the show notes, but
Okay.
wisdom teeth something or other. Fill me in later. It's
All
fine.
six
Yeah.
of them coming out, one shot.
I'm a freak.
All six
I'm a
of them.
freak. Yeah, I
You
have
have six
6.
wisdom teeth.
You have 6 as well?
No, I have 4.
Oh, I think you said all 6 of
I
them
have
too.
none.
Like you had.
Obviously.
And did you never have any, or did you have them pull?
No,
pulled?
hadn't pulled.
Okay. I guess there are some people
Two
that
at
actually
a time.
don't get.
Yes,
wisdom
some
teeth.
people don't have wisdom teeth,
Yeah.
and some people
Yeah, I
have
don't.
fewer than the usual 4.
Yeah. So I've made up for it.
Right. You're a freak of nature.
I am definitely a freak. Yeah. For sure.
Okay, let's end the broadcast. Have a little chat.
Okay.
Okay.
And Nick can go to bed.
All right. Well, hey everybody, thanks for hanging with us. I can't believe Alan's still up. What time is
I
it now
know.
in
That'd be
Estonia?
3 or
I'm
something.
telling.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
probably
it's,
a couple hours later than for Nick.
but hey,
1
it's a
hour, 2
weekend,
hour.
right? He probably doesn't have to work tomorrow, right? Okay.
Let's
He
hope.
might be going bowling.
Hey,
Might
Arnie.
be. All right.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Whatever. All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a good
Adios.
weekend.